Hi, good morning, everyone. Welcome to our Friday weekly Ask Me Any Stock session. Today, we're looking at the US market. If you guys can see and hear me, just type a type a GM for good morning. Let me just acknowledge all of you for joining us live, right? Being early, right? And those of you who are very regular as well, joining us every Friday. Thank you so much. I want to acknowledge all of you. Type a GM for good morning. Let me know. Hi, good morning, Andy. Hi, can we talk about NKTR? I think some of you are typing in the name of the US stocks that you want us covered, right? Very good. Let's go ahead to take a look at that later. But good morning. Hi, Abdul, good morning as well. Yaktree, hi. Brandon, good morning. Chan SY, good morning. Jaslyn, John, morning. Joseph as well. Good morning, guys. Welcome, right? Welcome to our weekly AMAS session, right? So in this session, right, what happens is that, as the name of the title goes, right? Ask me any US stocks, right? So that's where we do a quick market outlook. We'll look at the S&P 500 index because today is the US market, right? And then we'll go and dive into the US stocks that you guys are asking about, right? So later when you type in the name of the US stocks, what you want to do is to give us some context, all right? Let us know a little bit about the US stock that you are asking about, right? Are you looking to buy? Are you looking to sell? You bought it last week, last month, what price? Give us a bit of context. Why? So that's where we'll be able to advise you. At least we understand, what you're trying to do, right? And we can kind of analyze it in a way whereby is it the right thing to do, or maybe it's not the right thing to do. Does it make sense, All right. So that's what you're gonna do. And that's how I think you can get more value, all right, out of today's AMAS live session, right? So before we go on further, would it be okay, guys, if you help us to like and share? Help us to like and share this live stream right now. Of course, if you have not yet subscribed to our YouTube and even on our Facebook channel, make sure you hit the subscribe or the follow button so that when we go live in the future, you can be alerted. So give us some heart shapes. I think there is a heart shapes icon at the bottom right, all right? So give us some heart shape love. Thank you so much for support, all right? Very good. Now, let's go ahead to get started right now. So let me just wait to introduce myself in case you've never met before. My name is Joey Choy, top tier remisier trader in Philips Securities, where I'm a broker as well. And I've been doing this for more than 15 years now. Basically, my forte is in stocks, right? We do Singapore stocks, US stocks, and a little bit of Hong Kong stocks as well, all right? And I've been using what I call the one good trend strategy. In short, the 1GT strategy, whereby we get in when we are aligned with the trend, right? That's one of the confirmations that we seek. Plus, we get other confirmations like signals, right, to alert us on when to get in and also when to get out, right? So I have this one good trend strategy as mentioned, and we have a 7-step checklist that guides us on what to do, right? If we get 4 out of 7 in this checklist, it's a go ahead, right? If it's not, then unfortunately it's a pass, right? So that's how it works, right? We have this strategy and we have a tool as well. I call it the one good trend or the 1GT Pro indicator, which we'll be using later, right? So not to worry, later we'll be using this indicator, this tool to analyze the US stocks that you're asking about, all right? But of course, today we don't have time to, break down and cover the whole 1GT strategy, all right? So if you want to find a bit more, you can attend a free webinar. You can attend a free webinar probably in about 2-3 weeks' time. Team, just place the link in the chat, all right? So that's where we actually kind of dive a little bit into the strategy. But today, we just pump, right? We just go ahead to cover your US stocks, all right? But that's the strategy that I've been using. We have a tool that just makes it so much more systematic, so much more repeatable and simple as well, such that anybody would be able to follow. All right, so that is me, Joey, right over here. And of course, I have my teammates as well joining us, and we have Z as well. Let me just go to introduce Z first. One of our top brokers in Philips Securities under me, serving our thousands of clients, also assisting in our group coaching sessions with our graduates, our one-on-one sessions with our mentees, and also assisting our team's portfolio manager running a 7-figure portfolio management business, right? So Z is a CMT, Chartered Market Technician, right? Basically, she's an expert in charts, anything to do with charts, technical analysis, candlestick, patterns, price action, right? She's an expert, right? And sometimes I do consult her as well. Or of course, she's very well versed on the entire one good trend strategy and the 1GT Pro indicator. So let me just pass on the mic to Z to maybe share a little bit on himself. All right, Z, go ahead.
All right. Thanks, Joey. Hi, everyone. My name is Z. For those who have not met me yet, nice to meet you guys. So yeah, like what Joey mentioned earlier on, basically in the summary, it's just that I like to look at charts, but then I like to look at chart in a way whereby it is not overly complicated, right? Whereby there's so many things on the chart, and then you don't really know what to focus on. So I think my philosophy, if you guys have been joining us, time to time, right, every week, right, you know that it's pretty simple, right? I don't like to overcomplicate things, right? And that is where the one good trend pro indicator, it consists of, like, you are able to, with just one indicator, you can see the trend. You can have bullish or bearish signals appearing to give you a very quick opinion on the particular stock, right? Whether should you actually take an action, should you not, should you wait? So it keeps your chart very clean, right? But and yet at the same time, it's a very repeatable process whereby you can apply it yourself, right? So I think yeah, without further ado, right, maybe, oh yeah, and the thing is that because for today, I am actually with Joey, right? But by right, every session, we actually rotate around, sometimes with Bervin, sometimes with Jia Yi, right? But unfortunately, today Jia Yi had to attend to some important matters, right, at work as well. So yeah, it's just me and Joey. But Bervin is actually on leave, right? And he actually recorded a very short video for you guys as well. So let me just play it for you guys.
Okay. Alright, happy Friday everyone. Welcome back to the weekly AMAS. Alright, I'm still here in Jeju for a short break, but Joey, Jai and Zia is going to bring you through today's AMAS. Really volatile week, I would say, in the last few days, and last week as well. A lot of earnings came out. Yep, so I think Joey, Jai and Z, the team would definitely be able to bring you through what's going on, what's going to be happening in the next week as well, and what to expect as well. Alright, so I will not be back just yet, but I'll be back for next week. I think by next week I'll be back in Singapore already, and I'll join the next AMAS. So I'll see you guys then. Alright, cheers. Have a good weekend ahead as well. And to those celebrating Chinese New Year, 恭喜发财, Happy Lunar New Year. Alright, bye guys.
Nice. Wow. Where's she? Where's she? Z?
I think he's at Jeju. Jeju Island.
Jeju, Korea, is it?
Yeah.
Wow, nice. Looks good, man. Enjoying. Okay, you'll be back next week, guys. You'll be back next week. So those of you who missed Bervin's analysis on your stocks, do join us in our Friday weekly. He's taking a short break, a well-deserved break, right? So we'll see him next week. All right. Okay. Now let's go ahead to get started right now. So very simple, guys. What happens is that in this AMAS session, we'll go ahead to do a quick market outlook, the S&P 500 index. We'll go through the US stocks that you guys are asking about. And at the end, right, me and Z, each of us will share one US stock that you want to put in your portfolio, right, for potentially even more upside. So make sure you stay all the way to the end. All right. Okay. So just a quick disclaimer: whatever that's being shared in this session, right, like all our other sessions, is just for education purposes only. A quick disclaimer, right? It's not really to ask you to buy or to sell anything, right? Please do a little bit of homework, a little bit of due diligence, right? We're just showing you our process, our framework, the tools that we are using, the 1GT Pro indicator, right? And you control your own decisions. Sounds good, right? So let's get started, and maybe let's cover what we call the market right now. How many of you want me to cover maybe the market, type of M for market, guys? If you want me to cover what we call the market, can we take a look at the broad view of the US market? Type of M for market, guys. If you want me to cover the market before we dive into the US stock, let me know. M for market. Very good. Thanks, Johnson as well. Sarah, Claudia, Lawrence, as well. Very good. Now let's take a look at the market very quickly. All right, let's try to make sense of what is happening right now in the market. And when we look at the US market, most people tend to look at what we call the S&P 500 index, right? Pretty much the index that tracks the top 500 companies in the US. All right, and it's it gives us a very good understanding of where we are, right? In terms of, are we bullish, are we bearish? So this is S&P 500 index at about 6,832. So yesterday, same thing last night. Again, we saw a sell down in the market, right? And I've been talking about this level whereby every time we hit there for the past 2 months, we always see selling. And it seems like it's the same level again last night, right? What level is that? Well, this level is none other than the 7,000, right? So this 7,000 level, right? You can see for the past 2 months, We have been trying to attempt to near it, maybe even attempt to break it, but sellers are just there pushing the market back down. The psychological 7,000 level, right? And I would say that, the market is, for the US market, I mean, compared to the Singapore market has been pretty bullish, right? Even attempting to break the 5,000. But for US S&P 500 index, well, we've seen a bit of selling, right? And it's the same narrative. You're seeing a bit of selling due to earnings result on some of the big technology stocks, right, pulling down the index. A little bit of a risk-off approach, right? People are kind of like, taking the money away from those, technology stocks that seems to be overvalued. So there's some overvaluation concerns that has been the talk since actually last year. But now, same thing, it is happening again. People are using that to take some profit, take some money off the table as we start to consolidate sideways. All right, so a bit of a consolidation, I would say. Look at the long-term trend. First, you can see that the red line is pointing up. The blue line is pointing up as well. So the red is the 100 days moving average, right? The blue is the 200 days moving average. And both of them, to be honest, are pointing up, right? They've been pointing up since like July, August. So the long-term trend for the market, for the US market, is actually still up, right? There's no worries. I mean, it's still okay, right? But of course, if you ask me in 2022, like maybe over here in 2022, like here, right? That was where we had like rate hikes and inflation and all that, right? The Fed was trying to hike rates. And obviously, when that happened, you can see the red line was going down. The blue line was also going down. Of course, we got a rate crossing below the blue line. So that's what we call a bearish crossover, right? So that kind of like, signals the long-term trend turning down. All right, so not good. Careful, reduce your exposure. Don't hold too many stocks, right? Because the long-term trend is down. Does it make sense? All right, not now, not that's in 2022. That's like about 3 years ago, right? 4 years ago, okay? But what I'm trying to show you is that right now, well, it's a little bit different because the long-term trend is actually still up, right? It's actually still up. So people have been talking about, wow, is the market going to correct? Are we going to see a recession, a bit of a reversal and stuff like that, right? But in my take is that since last year, May, June, July, well, the market has turned more bullish. We have broke some of the key levels after Trump introduced tariffs in April. The tensions between US and China got resolved. Things got a little bit better when they started talking, all right? So that's where the market has turned bullish. And it is still bullish right now in the longer term, right? But now, what about the short term? Well, so in the short term, we should look at what we call the green 20 days moving average line. So the green line, right, you can see that since April, it is up, right? So if the green line is up, good. It means the short-term trend is up, right? Up all the way, October still up. But somewhere around December, 2 months ago, it started to go sideways right over here. So let me just zoom into you. You can see that the green 20 days moving average line, it is kind of like flat right now, which is correct because it is consolidating. So once the green line is flat, it means that there is some form of resistance at the top, which is the 7,000, which I just talked about, right? And I just draw that red line right over here. And also maybe a support level that is coming up, right? Because the green line is flat, right? So you can see we would probably see a support. It's like this is a pretty good support, right? The 6,800 level for the S&P 500 index over the past 2 months, right? We have neared it, went down, came back up, rebounded. In fact, last week rebounded. Last night sold off. We are near it again. I don't know whether you rebound, but the fact is that we are near the 6,800 level again, right? So that is kind of like a higher new horizontal support that firmed up, I would say, over the past 2 months, right? It used to be like at 6,550. Look at this right over here. It used to be here, right? Rebound. Right? That was from September to November. But that support has shifted to slightly higher, from 6,005 to 6,008. Right? So that's a sign of strength as well. I mean, as I say, right, as long as the support gets higher, the long-term trend is still up, no problem. But the short-term trend might just be sideways. It might just be consolidating. You see what I'm saying so far? Right? So still okay, right? So I think as long as you stay above that 6,800, well, we could still be, moving sideways for the market, we bounce back up, some good news, and then some earnings announcement, it comes back down again, right? So 6,008 to that 7,000 level, right? If we were to break that 6,800, so just take note, right? This 6,800 will be quite key for now, right? It's the support level for the entire market, right? But if you were to break this 6,800, right over here, right, and we go below it, right? We go to 6,007, and the green line obviously starts to, if it starts, now it's flat, right? But if it starts to point down, like maybe something like this, and then not so good, right? That's where potentially we could start to see a bit more weakness in the market, right? Maybe all the way to that 6,500 level. All right, so that is the S&P 500 index, right? From a very quick analysis from the trend and also from some of the key support and resistance level. Now, let me go ahead to just remove all the lines. And what we could do actually is that from this one GT Pro indicator, right? You can see that I've turned on the green, the red, and the blue line, right? But what I can do is that I can actually turn on the very first box right over here that gives anyone or even me, right, an idea of the stock or the market, right? Are we getting any bullish signals? Are we getting any bearish signals, right? As another confirmation. So let's take a look. Pump. On it, come, right? Off it, disappears. On it, let go. So let's turn it on and let's take a look. So this is the S&P 500 index right now from the 1 GT Pro indicator in terms of the bullish and bearish signals. You can see, right? It's not always green bullish signal, right? Sometimes we have red bearish signals. Look at this pump. That was in February and March before the whole tariff things last year by Trump, right? You can see all the way down. A bullish signal came out, another one, the reversal happened, all the way up, right? Now let's take a look at what has happened over the past 2 to 3 months. So you can see we got actually 1, 2, 3, 3 bullish signals as we attempt to break that 7,000. All right, so it's still okay because the last 3 signals are actually bullish, right? But doesn't mean we get a bullish signal means you just get in, right? A bullish signal would be just one confirmation that we seek, just one. All right, we have a total of like 7 confirmations. If we get 4 out of 7, good, right? But in this case, this is just one confirmation, right? So basically, you got a bullish signal. Well, the long-term trend is up, right? Which is okay. But if we get a bullish signal, the long-term trend is up, and we break the 7,000, and the green line that is going sideways start to turn up, a different story. That is where we get the confirmations that we need that could guide us on an entry on any stock, or even for the market, it can be even more bullish. Right? So right now, I would say not bearish. I would say not bearish because we've got bullish signals coming out. So it's okay, but just that we are still kept below 7,000. So hopefully we consolidate from 6,008 to 6,008 to 7,000. All right, and eventually the 7,000 gives way. I think that's where we could see more bullish momentum coming in on the entire S&P 500 index. All right, okay. So that is kind of like the market right now, S&P right over here. Okay, now let me go on to the next segment whereby we can cover the US stocks that you guys want. As the name of the show, right? This live show that we do every Friday, right? Ask me any US stocks. So very simple, guys. Go ahead to type the name of the US stocks in the chat, but not just the name, all right? Go ahead to see, what many of our attendees are typing as well, right? Type the name of the stock and then give us a bit of context, right? Like, are you looking to think about buying? Are you looking to get out, get in? What price did you buy? Is it last year, last week, right? That is where we get more context. I think that's where you can get more value as well. All right, okay. So let me go to choose the very first stock for today before I pass on the mic to Z, right, to cover the next US stock. So give me some time. I'll just choose the first stock. Right? Let me just go ahead to choose right now. Let's see. Okay. Okay. Okay, maybe I can just pick this right over here. Josing, right? Thanks for joining us today. Let's see what would be the stock you're asking about, right? I just sort off my Google shares when it falls below TS, all right? So I believe you have access to the tools that we have, the 1GD Pro indicator. All right, very good. So TS stands for trailing support. Later, maybe I can turn it on and see whether is it correct, right? So it fell below the TS recently. Should I buy it again when the price goes up? And if so, at what price? So let's take a look at Google right now, right? Google, GOOGL. Let's take a look at it right over here. Okay, good. So this is Google, right? GOOGL, Alphabet, trading at $309. So very good, right? So Jocelyn, you mentioned that you have sold off your Google share, right? When it fell below the trailing support. So let me explain to you guys what is a trailing support that Jocelyn's about. I think Jocelyn is probably one of our graduates, right? Having the tools that we have, right? The 1GT Pro indicator. So I could turn on, I would say, the trailing support line, the very box right over here that's turning on. And you see, right? Now, there is a line that pops out below the price. So this trailing support, it actually follows a stock as it moves up. It gives it the breathing space, right? You can see that, when it popped out in May, it was right over here. As Alphabet started to move up, it followed it, right? Up, flat, follow it. And when it followed, right, it didn't just follow very closely. It gave it the space to breathe, right? It gave it the allowance to hopefully move higher. Right? So from May, follow from June, July, August, September, October, November, December, follow until February this year. All right? In fact, over the past 3 days, you can see that we have broken below. In fact, on Wednesday night, we have broken below the trailing support line. All right? So correct, Jocelyn, we have indeed broken below the trailing support line. So that would mean that we are indeed seeing some selling coming back, right, for Alphabet. Because why? Because you see, since May, as I say, we have been giving it the space to breathe, to move up, right? From May all the way to February is like about 7-8 months, right? It was above the trailing support, but finally, 3 days ago or 2 days ago, we went below the trailing support. Right? So if you stay above the trailing support, you're fine because we give you the space, right? You stay above one. If you're good, you should, by right, be above one, right? But we give you the space, you use up all the space, and you go below it, not so good. That's where we could see bearishness, a potential reversal. Doesn't mean it's going to crash, but we could be seeing some selling in the short term, especially if we get another confirmation of the short-term trend weakening as well, right? And what would that be? Well, that would be the green 20 days moving average line. So you can see the green line has started, it was like up all the way, right? Up, very nice rally, up, flat, up. And now, after the bearish signal actually got triggered, you can see the green 20 days moving average line is starting to point down. Does it make sense, Var? Right, so definitely we are indeed seeing some selling for Alphabet right now. Okay, maybe all the way to the next support level, which I can find out in a bit, but some weakness. So it's okay. I think it's very good that you can take some profit off, right? Looking at the very first bullish signal that we got, let me just go to turn this off. All right, so from the very first bullish signal in like May, all the way to 2 days back, we got a bearish signal. That will be a 97%, right, increase. So why not take some profit? 97% not enough, man, right? I think it's quite a decent profit, right? So get out, take some profit, maybe wait to come back in again. Right? So we got a bearish signal, but doesn't mean you're going to crash, right? What I think is that, in the short term, we might see a bit of weakness, but the longer term trend still looks nice. It looks strong. In fact, it's quite bullish, right? So when we see a new bullish signal, when we see the short term trend turning back up, that will be a sign to get back in again. Like, for example, you can see previously in like last year, we got bearish signal right over here. All right? February, another bearish signal, and there we go, all the way down. So if you get in, right, the green line was down as well. The short-term trend was down. So if you get in, you might get stuck, right? It went from like about 200s all the way to like 150. Does it make sense, right? So if you get in, then we could get stuck because you have no idea how low it can go, right? Why not wait for this to come back? Wait for this as another confirmation, and there we go, all the way up. You see everything's about? All right. So let me go to answer your question, right? Should I buy it again when the price goes up? And if so, at what price? So very simple. What we could do is this, right, Jocelyn? Right now, I would say that we could be seeing some support right over here at about that $300. So 300, and it even could be like about let's say about 280. You can see that's where we actually tried to hold above over the past like 3-4 months, right? So 280 to 300, that could be what we call the near-term horizontal support level, but doesn't mean we go to the support means we anyhow buy. No, right? But if we go to the support and we see, prices stabilizing, a couple of bullish candlesticks coming out, like for example, right now the price is going down, All right, so let's say we hit to here and we start to stabilize. All right, and boom, we start to see a new 1GT bullish signal like this over here. Let's say you take this, right? Then you take and then you paste it. You take and then you paste it over here. I don't know where, man. It could be over here, it could be over here, right? But once you see a new 1GT bullish signal, right? And the green line that is like, from going down, start to turn up as well, right? So you could like take this and then we, put it something like this over here, all right? That could be another confirmation of that reversal move. You see what I'm saying, for? Right? So that's what we could look out for. All right, I hope that helps Jocelyn, whereby, we don't have to rush to get in, right? We could wait for it to stabilize because it's only like a few days that the bearish signal actually got triggered. Let it stabilize, see if some support comes back, see if the green 20 days moving average line, maybe flatten out a little bit, maybe start to point up a little bit, right? If a new bullish signal appears, good, that could lead you to get back in again to ride the next phase up. Cool? All right, so that is for Alphabet, GOOGL, the very first stock for today. Now, let me pass on the mic to Z to cover the next US stock. Z, go ahead.
All right, thanks, Joey. Okay, so let me share my screen over here. All right, okay, so I hope you guys can actually see my screen. And the next stock that I'll be covering will be by Simon. Right, Simon is asking about TSM, right? Thanks for giving us so much details, right? You are saying that you're holding on to TSM at $230 small position from mid-2024. Now TSM is 368. Should I sell partial or accumulate more? One ET appeared again on this day at 364, but yesterday red candle has a long lower tail. Okay, let's take a look at this. Okay, maybe I hide your comment first, so that everybody can see the chart. Okay, all right, so let's take a look at TSM right now. And Simon mentioned that he bought at 230, right? Small position. So 230 yesterday, 368, confirm sitting on profits already, right? So let me just see, 230, maybe about here to here. So you're sitting on about 60% profits, not too bad, right? Not too bad. Okay, so then of course now when you're sitting on so much profits, usually people will either think about, hey, I want to sell, I want to take profits, or I want to add more, which you did ask, right? Which you did ask, but usually people would just think about selling. They wouldn't want to think about adding more, right? So when your mindset is you have these two questions in your head, right? Whether you want to sell or you want to think about adding more. I think that is a very firstly, I think I want to commend you that you have this mindset, because typically people don't think about buying more when it's more expensive because you bought at $230 right? So now when we take a look at TSM, right, you're right that yesterday, right, we actually see a very, very long lower shadow candlestick right over here, even though you see that it's red, right? But I can tell you that this candlestick, right, even though it is red, right, it's actually it has bullish implications to this particular candlestick. Why? Because during the trading session, the sellers push the price all the way down, but then the buyers managed to step in to buy at higher prices and push it all the way back up close to where it actually opened, right? So that indicates that the buying pressure is actually indeed really very strong. And I think I just had a quick look at it, right? See that right over here, US-Taiwan finalized deal to actually cut tariffs. Right, so over here, you guys can also see, I think perhaps could be also one of the reason and the catalyst as to why we are actually seeing, very bullish price action as of last night, whereby, Trump administration official signs a final reciprocal trade agreement to confirm a 15% US tariff imports, while Taiwan, right, they actually eliminate or lower tariffs on nearly all US goods. And also, I think over here, you can see that the agreement includes a pledge by Taiwan that its company would invest $250 billion to boost production of semiconductors, energy, artificial intelligence in the US, and $100 billion already committed by TSM, right, the company. And also the Taiwan government also guaranteed another $250 billion in the US investments, right? So all these are, I think, positive signs, right, to a company as well. And I think market actually absorbed that news pretty well, and that is where you can see that it's being reflected in the chart as of yesterday, right? So for TSM, I think, of course, all of you guys can see, right, the trend for TSM, definitely uptrend is still intact. All three moving averages are heading up. And we also got a 1GT bullish signal, right, on the 2nd of January, right, 2nd of January, right over here. That is actually still playing out, right? They're still playing out. So as you can see, there are some lines that are already drawn on my chart, right, which are like support and resistance, and those are the key levels that we want to take note of. Set price alert to notify yourself if price reach that certain level, what can you potentially do, right? So for TSM, as you can see over here, this was previously 380, right? 380 is the resistance, right, that was actually drawn right over here, right? And this is where, you know, we potentially, usually at resistance level, is where we potentially could expect more selling pressure to return, right? So I would not be surprised if, let's say, you know, over the next couple of days, price keep attempting to hit to this 380, right, and then cannot go up above because selling pressure is there. I think that's normal, right? That's normal, especially at resistance level, right? So Simon, you are sitting on profits, right? 60% profits, right, with $230 entry price. And you mentioned that you have a small position, because I don't know how small is your small position. If you tell me your small position is like 10 shares, 5 shares, then maybe you can think more about accumulating rather than taking profits first, because at this point in time, it definitely still looking bullish, right? Definitely still looking bullish. So in that case, I think what would be good for you would be, you can consider to set price alert slightly above this 380 resistance, right? Because if this 380 resistance were to be broken and price is able to hold firmly above it, must hold firmly above it, not just broken only, right? This 380 will essentially turn from what we call a resistance to become a support. So essentially, it is finding higher support, right? So when we find higher support and we think about the 1GT framework that we have, we want to think about accumulating near support level, right? So your 380 would then become a new support level, right? A new support zone whereby essentially that would be what we call like a breakout strategy, right? And this is where you can consider to actually accumulate more position, like especially to increase your exposure, since we all know that the uptrend is still looking good. And just as of yesterday, we see very, very bullish price action. Buyers are willing to come in to buy at higher prices, right? So I think that is something that you can consider. Because I'm not too sure how small of your position you are holding, right? But I think don't have to worry too much about this stock at this point in time, because your average cost price is definitely very low, right? But the key thing is make sure to take active steps to protect your profits, because you don't want it to go all the way later. Suddenly something happen, you go all the way back to 230, then you go back to square one. You don't want that to happen, right? We don't want our winners to become losers, right? So then make sure to take active steps to protect your profits as well, to, you know, set some stop limit order, you know, by following the trailing support, right? So you remember the trailing support that Joey talked about, whereby it trails the prices as it moves up, giving it the room for it to breathe. So as it moves up, you can follow the trailing support to protect your profits along the way as it continues to ride up. But at the same time, be need to have the mindset of whereby if it goes up, I must be okay to buy at more expensive price because I want to increase exposure since the stock is still pretty good. Yeah, so that is something that you can think about as well, right? Protecting your profits, but also think about increasing your exposure, not just thinking about selling, but more of protecting it. Okay, so that would be for TSM. I hope that helps, Simon, to give you something to think about and also set some price alerts at the level that was mentioned. Okay, so that would be TSM. I'll pass the time back over to Joey to cover the next stock.
All right, thank you so much, Z. Right, so TSM, not too bad, right? One of the stocks that I think looks pretty bullish. The long-term trend is up. We got a couple of bullish signals. Thanks for sharing on that, Michael. Right, so let's move on. Let's move on to the next one. And this would be the next stock whereby it is a little bit not so bullish. And this is the counter, Oracle, ORCL. Let me go to pull out who is asking about it. Hi, SL5331. I hope you're still over here. Let me go to cover on Oracle right now. Bought at $260. Okay, so I think you bought it. I think you bought it over here, around $260. Thanks for giving us a bit of context, right? Thanks for giving us a bit of context. So I think you bought it maybe in November, like that, Okay, right over here. And then yes, came down. Now it's about 156, correct? I think last night it was 156.48. We are open to holding it. Okay, what is your view on this stock? ORCL. Okay, so this is okay. Let me just go to analyze this stock first. First of all, guys, okay, maybe what we can do, right, is that I could turn also. I'm looking at the chart right now, but what I could do is to turn on the 1 GT Pro indicator to take a look if there's any bullish or bearish signal. So let's see whether, you know, by right you bought at 260, by right should have don't buy or not, right? So let's take a look. Pump. So you can see that we actually had a couple of bearish signals. I mean, you tell me you buy over here, no problem. April, you know, June last year, pump, okay, go ahead, good. But somewhere in November, I think when you bought right over here, we actually got the first 1 GT bearish signal coming out, right? And then we got 2 more pump. And then I think last week got like 2 more coming out as well, right? So we've seen a couple of bearish signals coming out since like October, November, and also you can see that the green 20 days moving average line has also started to turn down since October, right? So that is the short-term trend. So the short-term trend is down, plus you got bearish signal there. You get what I mean? So I would say, okay, maybe you don't have these two, right? Maybe you don't have these two, but how many of you agree that by right, if you have seen the bearish signal plus the short-term trend is down, by right, you would not want to buy? Type A for agree, guys, if you agree that, by right, you don't want to buy lah. I mean, why you want to buy, right? Type A for agree, guys, if you agree with me regarding like, you know, not when, you know, when to buy, and also it's very important to know when not to buy also, right? Type A for agree, guys, if you agree with me, let me know. Agree, Brandon, agree. All right. And that's exactly, you know, what these two helps us with, right? It's not just about, you know, buying everything also, you know, buy, right? But sometimes it's also good to say, no, this one, I'm not going to buy. This one cannot buy one, all right? Not now, not today, not tomorrow, right? Until I see something that I buy. You see what I'm saying, Swan, right? So I think that is pretty much for Oracle, right? So I think you got in at 260, but by right, if you have seen this bearish signal, you probably wouldn't have got in, because obviously, you know, yes, came down from 260 all the way to like about 156 right now. It's like a 40%. So let's say you bought, never mind, you never see, but if it breaks a support and you get a few more bearish signal coming out, all right, and you know, you mentioned that we are open to holding it. Okay, so one thing about the one good trend strategy is this, right? There's no such thing as just holding it blindly, right? You have a plan. When you get in, you have a plan. If certain levels break down, you get some confirmations of weakness, you get the bearish signal, the short-term trend is pointing down, you get out. You hit your stop loss, you get out. You make a small loss. But if you're just, we are open to holding it. So if it goes down, you are open to let it go down some more. I mean, I don't know, like you're open to holding it down some more. I mean, by right, should not be like that, right? Why you want to hold it down when it's like going down, right? You want to hold it if it's going up. No problem. Like just now, Z mentioned about Taiwan semiconductor. Now you hold, go ahead, no problem. It's good, ma. It's strong, ma. You hold, yeah, go ahead, hold some more. In fact, go and buy some more. No problem, good one. But this one, is to get out, right? Or worse, don't hold all the way down, right? Because it's weak. Right, and that's the mistake that most people make, right? Because of the small loss, they have no plan, they hold, then go down, they hold, they hold some more until all the way down, they probably just, just leave it lah, 不要紧啦，放住啦. That's what I hear most of my clients say. 不要紧，放住啦，以后会再上的. Tomorrow will go back up one, hopefully lah. I don't know when. But why not we get out first, wait for a time to come back in. If we were to see like this, you can see previously also same thing, right? We got a bearish signal 2025, pump, and it goes down. All right, it went from like 180 all the way to 130. Also quite serious, quite. Then what happens? Pump. The reversal happened. Right? So the past 3-4 months, I think is even more even weaker lah. All right, because this one only got 2. This one got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 bearish signals. So we have indeed sold off again. So back to your question, well, I would say that probably need to have a plan, but we never want to hold on to a stock blindly, just hoping that you'll recover, right? Normally you want to reduce exposure, get out, because all the confirmations are all now pointing down. And you want to take note of this, right over here, SL5331. Basically, you can see that we have a support right over here at 120. 120 is the support level that we've been holding in March, April last year. Now it's 156. We could be heading to 120, right? Maybe even to 130, right? That is a key support level. But what I want to share with you is this, right? If, I'm not saying it will happen now, but if it happens, if the 120 support were to break down and we get 2 more bearish signal coming out, and then you still say we are open to holding it, without the plan, all right, then that's not so good, right? That's where, you're just letting your losses, you're just holding for the sake of holding, right? You have no idea why you're holding also, but, just hold, right? So need to have a plan, basically need to have a plan. We don't want to hold to it blindly, all right? If certain levels break down, support breaks down, we get bearish signals, like this, since October. So guys, this is not last week or last month, October already got a bearish signal, right? And you see all the way down, you would want to be careful, right? So I would think that getting in is one thing, right? When not to get in is another thing, all right? But let's say you have got in, right? You make a mistake, you get in. Then you also want to know when to get out, which is very important as well. All right, so if you want to find a little bit more, what happens is that we are using the 1GT Pro indicator right over here, right? And as I see, from the 1GT Pro indicator, we could actually turn on the trailing support and resistance. So you can see, since October, we got this trailing resistance. You can see this red line following Oracle as it moves down, right? You go down, I follow you. Down, flat, down, flat, down, flat. The past 1 month, we'll follow it, go down a bit more. Are we still below it? Yes, we are still kind of like below it. The green line still pointing down, right? So if you're below this trailing resistance, not so good. Sellers could still come back and regain control back, right? So that is another confirmation of more weakness, right? Another step of our checklist that we also look at, all right? So what happens is that we are using the 1GT Pro indicator, whereby it contains more features and stuff. But I just want to share that we actually do have what we call a light version, the 1GT light indicator, whereby you can actually have a 14 days free trial to it, all right? Z can just place the link in the chat, right? So what happens is that you want to find a bit more, click on the link in the chat. That's where you could have a trial on this 1GT indicator tool, all right, that you can turn on the bullish and bearish signals, right? So the light indicator is a simpler version, so you can turn on the bullish and bearish signals. You can turn on the moving averages, the red, the green, and blue line as well, just to give you a quick idea of the trend, and also any signals that could support your decision. So if you see a bearish signal, then probably don't want to buy, right? If you see a bullish signal like over here and you want to buy, good. That confirms that confidence, that decision. That's where you have more conviction for that trade. Does it make sense so far? All right, so I hope that helps. Link in the chat, check it out, how you can test drive the 1GT light indicator for free for 14 days. All right, so let me pass on the mic to Z to cover the next US stock. Z?
All right, thanks, Joey. Okay, so the next stock, let me see. Over here, let me share my screen. Yeah, okay, so it's by Joshing, right? Mentioned about Micron, because I think Micron, this is one of the stocks that has been pretty volatile recently, and also a lot of people has been also asking us about this stock. So I think maybe it'll be good to cover it as well. So Joshing mentioned that he bought Micron at 382 when the price dropped and hover just above the TS. Wow, so Joshing is actually using the trading support as well. Very good, right? And is it a correct action? Okay, so let's take a look at Micron. Right, so as you can see over here, I've drawn some boxes and also drawn some lines, right? So there's a reason as to why I put like a green color box and a red color box typically, right? And we can see that before I dive into that, we just look at, okay, let me just maybe close all of these first. Okay, like that. Okay, we just look at the trend itself, right? Micron definitely uptrend, very intact, right? Long term, short term, everything pointing up. Plus, we got 1GT bullish signal since like December, 10th of December, the first one, right? Followed by 19th December, 2 consecutive 1GT bullish signals, still playing up. No bearish signal yet. Some more 20 days moving average. Can see it was actually going up. Actually here lost a bit of momentum, but it started to regain back up again, and now it's also pointing up, aligning with the longer term trend, right? So in terms of the trend wise, nothing much to worry about, right? Definitely still looking good. So let me put back my drawings, okay, right over here, right? So as you can see, before we even talk about the green and the red box that I draw, we talk about the resistance first, which is this one, right? This level at 450. This is a very obvious resistance level, right? Because why? Back in, somewhere in end of January to start of February, this period, right over here, this was where we started to see sellers coming back in, right? Attempting to push price back down, like unable to break above this 450, has been tested quite a number of times, right? I think at least 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, at least 1 week. Yeah, then after that, prices came back down, right? Price retrace, bears win, right? Bears win and push the price back down. And I think this is where Josing actually entered, right? About 382, right? Somewhere within my green box here. And I think why you actually enter is because when you turn on the trading support and resistance, let's see right over here. Okay, I turn on and I turn off, right? Turn on and turn off. So this is where you can see the trailing support has been trailing the prices ever since it moved up since December, whereby the 2-1 bullish signal actually came out, right? And this was where prices pull back, right? And it pulled back close to above the very near the trailing support, but it is still holding above it, right? It's still holding above the trailing support. So I believe that is why maybe Joshing have decided to actually enter as well, because like we mentioned, right, when the stock is actually strong, the uptrend is strong, long term, short term, everything is good, right? We want to enter near where? Based on the framework, we want to enter near a support, right? We don't want to anyhow buy, we want to enter near a support, which is great, right? I think the entry definitely nothing wrong, right? Nothing wrong. In fact, I would say it's not too bad, right? It's not too bad because you are entering near the trailing support, right? Near the trailing support. And price managed to hold above it, tested it, right? Definitely, it tested it for a couple of days, but we do see some buyers coming back in to support it, lah, right? And it then rebounded. It then rebounded from the trading support, now heading back towards the 450 resistance, whereby selling pressure is present, right? So, and based on just yesterday candlestick, if you just focus on yesterday candlestick, right, what do we see? This is actually very different, right, from the TSM, which I covered for the very first stock, right, whereby TSM, we have a very long lower shadow. But on the flip side, Micron, we have longer upper shadow, right? And when longer upper shadow, it just reaffirms you that sellers are actually there near the 450 resistance zone, right over here, whereby they are there to actually push the price down. So for Joshing, right, I'm not too sure what's your plan when you first enter Micron at 382. Like, you think about like your stop loss plan. Yeah, I mean, of course, your entry price is at 382, right? Your stop loss, what about your stop loss? What about your target price? I'm not too sure about your plan, right? Because everybody got different plan, and also your risk appetite is also different, right? But I would like to say that if prices actually now it's yesterday closed at 413, right? 413. So if it actually does head back, towards this 450, this zone right over here, right? I would say that there is nothing wrong for you to actually take profits, right? To take some profits near this resistance zone, right? Because I'm also not too sure what's your position sizing as well, whether you have done your risk management in terms of position sizing. But here, within this zone, I think nothing wrong to actually take some profits, like maybe partial profits if you like, half a position you would like, because as you can see, the longer term trend is good, right? And the short term trend has also started to point up, right? So if prices is able to, go back up to the 450, and break above the 450, then I think the next upside target that we are looking towards would be towards the $500. So maybe some of you might ask, hey, why $500? Right? Because $500, if you think about it, it is one of a psychological level as well. And usually psychological round nice numbers, right, is where typically, sellers are at to place a sell order, and that is where we can potentially see some pullback as well, right? So I think for Joshing, I think you can set price alert, right? You can set price alert definitely near the 450 level to make a decision whether you want to take like partial profits, right? And perhaps can also set price alert above the 450 to monitor whether if this 450, right, can be broken and can be held above firmly before, if you would like to think about increasing your exposure. Okay, so that would be for Micron. But of course, make sure to have your stop loss plan in place, because if prices were suddenly to reverse, as you know that all the tech counters now are pretty volatile, and if you were to suddenly reverse, do have your stop loss plan in place, because if it breaks below the trading support, you would know that we would have a 1GD bearish signal, and that would indicate that selling pressure have indeed returned. Okay, so that is Micron. So back over to you, Joey, to cover the next US stock.
All right, thank you so much, Z. Let's move on very quickly to the next one, and that would be this stock called Palantir, PLTR. Seems like a lot of you asking about it. We can see that we have SEAM, right? Please don't skip Palantir. I believe you want me to cover it. All right, we have also Mayan, right? Can analyze Palantir, still can go up. All right, not too sure about the context. Are you looking to buy, or maybe you're holding on to it and you hope that it will go up, right? No idea, right? But let's find out if we can go up later. Maybe we have another one on Palantir as well. Damien, hi Joey, could you share your views on Palantir, PLTR? I got it at $198. Thanks for giving us a bit of context, right? So you got it at 198. Now it's about 129. Okay, came down a bit, right? In fact, quite a bit, right? Okay, so I got it at 198 and hope to hear your views if I can hold on long term. Thanks in advance. Very good. So let's take a look at Palantir right now. Seems like we are indeed seeing some selling in the short term. A few of you asking about it, whether Can it go up? Is it a good time to get in? Or maybe you want to be careful, maybe to get out? Let's find out. So you can see that for Palantir, well, the long-term trend for Palantir has been up since like 2024. Look at this, right? The rate above the blue, very strong long-term uptrend. Rate above the blue, both going up from 2024 all the way to 2025, right? Until over the past 1-2 months, right? But if you look at the long-term trend right now, you can see that, well, the red line and the blue line, I mean, the red is kind of like sloping down a little bit, right? The red is kind of like sloping down a little bit, the blue flat. So it's not officially down yet, but there are some signs of weakness, or there are some signs of potential reversal in the long-term trend, right? So haven't happened yet, but let's say if we see the red line, I mean, continue to be like that. I'm just saying, right? I'm not saying it will happen, but let's say it's like that, okay? And you see the blue line maybe, start to like that. All right, something like that. When that happens, right? I don't know whether it will happen, maybe it will not, okay? But let's say if that happens, that is where I would say the long-term trend of Palantir would have turned from up since like 2024, 2025, to down. If it happens, right? So that's what you want to look out for. So as of right now, I would say that the long-term trend is still, potentially some weakness coming in because the rate is kind of like sloping down a little bit, right? Blue, we're kind of like nearing each other. There could be a potential bearish crossover. Now, let's take a look at the short-term trend. So short-term trend, type in the chat, guys. What do you guys think about the short-term trend in terms of the green 20 days moving average line? All right. U for up, D for down. All right. Just look at the green line right now. What do you guys think about the short-term trend for Palantir? U for up, D for down. Let me know. Okay, very good. Down, down. All right. Down, 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 down. All right. So, yep, a couple of downs. Thank you so much. Right. Fiona, thank you so much. Elric, Yids, all right. Simon, down. Claudia, most of you saying down. And it's correct, right? The green line has been pointing down. Not since yesterday or last week, since like, December, a bit pointing down already, right? So, by right, we probably don't want to buy. Why? Because as I say, we only buy when the long-term trend is up and the short-term trend is up. Both must be up, right? But this one's like long-term trend, not up. Maybe a bit sideways at that point in time. But the short-term trend is down, right? So we try not to buy. We try not to buy, okay? Until we get the confirmations that we need, right, to get it. Okay, now let's take a look. I think thanks for answering the question, right? Sim, I want to buy Palantir, although I'm still holding 5,000 plus shares from $15. Well, you got it at $15. I mean, $15 is a very fantastic low price, like $100 over, right? So you're definitely making some good money, right? So you're looking to buy more, right? That's good. But the thing is that could it be a right time to buy now, or maybe not, or maybe to wait a bit first, or stabilize before getting in? All right, so you're definitely sitting on profits. Now is to protect your profits and maybe think about adding positions when the time comes, right? Not now. Okay, now let's take a look at it again. You can see, short-term trend is down. We can go to turn on the bullish and bearish signals, but before I do that, guys, I want to share with you guys this horizontal support level that we see right over here. So 150, you can see that it has been a very strong support for Palantir, right? August rebounded, November rebounded, but so we have rebounded like, even in July, rebounded. So 1, 2, 3. 3 times we have neared it and we staged a very strong rebound all the way to that $200. So the range since August was $150 to $200. All right, I don't know what it's doing, but it's like, going up, then going down, then up, then down, then up, then now come back down. All right, hopefully, by right, it should go up again, but never, right? This time, we broke down the $150 that we have rebounded 3 times from July, August, and November. Does it make sense? All right, so that could mean some selling. It could mean that we have broken a very key support that we've been holding above for 5 to 6 months. It means that sellers are serious. They're out there. They're out to push prices down. They're out there to take away, all right, or to sell down all the buyers supporting that 150. All All right, and indeed we have hit it even lower, right? From 150 to 140 to 130, now it's about 129. So just want to be a bit more careful, right? As I say, when we get the confirmation whereby we break the support, and of course, when we broke the support, you can see the green line already down since October, or I mean since December, the green line has been down, right? So that is another confirmation of weakness. Now let's go ahead to turn on the bullish and bearish signals from the 1GT Pro indicator, pump. So you can see very clearly, okay, I mean, it's not always that bearish. Previously, in April last year, pump, all right, pump, then all the way, good. That one you want to buy, no problem, okay? I mean, you get here also, that was in like July, right over here, we got a bullish signal, and we started to see a rally. But every time we get a bearish signal, look at it, it starts coming down, right? Now let's zoom into what has happened over the past 1 month. Well, it seems like we already got a bearish signal coming out somewhere on January. So as we began the new year 2026, we got a bearish signal. Green line slightly pointing down. So a bit not so good, but right, you want to have a plan to get out if you're holding on to it, right? Or if you want to buy, then probably not buy. Why? Because why you want to buy when you got a bearish signal, right? As I say, right? If you get a bullish signal, fine. But if you get a bearish signal, you probably want to be patient, right? And then 2 more bearish signal have came out over the past 2 weeks. Let me know, guys. Type in the chat. This one, buy, B for buy, W for wait. What do you guys think? B for buy, W for wait. Based on what I just shared, let's go ahead to help Sim out, all right? Because you want to buy Palantir, all right? Let's go ahead to help. Let's see, right? Mayan, can analyze still can go up. So should we wait or should we buy? Right, Damien as well. Krisha view got in at 198. Hope to hold as well. Right, let's take a look. Right, so wait. Well, very good. Right, wait for bigger dips. Thank you so much, Nikki. Thanks, Brandon. Sell, S for sell. Right, some people saying sell. Right, Simon. Wait. Very good. So for me, it's very simple. If I'm holding on to a position like this, I got a couple of bearish signals. The short-term trend is down. I definitely want to have a plan to not just hold it down. I would want to have a plan to get out, to stop loss, to reduce my losses. Why? Because now it's 129. I mean, just now we covered this stock. What was the stock? ORCL or something, right? I mean, look at these guys. Now it's 129. Can it go to 120? Can it go to 110? Can it go to 100? I mean, I don't know, right? But if you are just holding on to it when we get bearish signals, so if I'm holding on to it, I would definitely not want to hold. I want to have a plan to get out, to reduce my losses, to get out, all right, to focus on winning stocks, the good one. Put the money there. That one good can go up. This one is going down. No, don't want to hold. Make sense? All right. So if I'm holding on to it, I will have a plan to get out. If I'm looking to buy, I will tell myself, you crazy or what? Buy for what? I mean, now you get bearish signal. We break the 150 support, all right? I mean, just be a bit more patient lah. Don't need to rush lah. Make sense? All right. So to buy, probably not yet. Holding on to it, right? Those of you holding on to it, I would say probably need to have a plan to get out. All right, to get out. Because my take is this. I think if the 120, so next support level, 150 has broken. Next support, 120. If the 120 to give way potentially all the way to the psychological 100 level, so that could be the downside move. All right, so we have no idea, right? So because the short-term trend is down, 3 bearish signals have appeared, right? So we don't want to just hold on blindly, just thinking that you'll recover. All right, so I hope that helps. I hope that helps for those of you asking about Palantir. For me, I think it's a bit more bearish right now because we have gone below the 150 psychological support. The short-term trend is down. Since December is down already. We got 3 1GT bearish signals. All confirmations are all pointing down right now. All right, so it's definitely more down than up lah. Right, so don't want to buy, holding on to it, have a plan to get out or to reduce some exposure at least. All right, that is for PLTR. Now, let me pass on the mic to Z, all right, to cover the next US stock. Z?
All right, thanks, Joey. Okay, so the next stock that I have over here will be by Ian, right? Ian asking about 2 stocks, but maybe let me just cover one for now. Thoughts on WFC, right? And JPM per 1GT on potential entries/exit, time to accumulate or take profit. Bought at average cost for WFC at 20.3. Okay, so let's take a look at WFC and let's deep dive into it, right? Okay, so you bought at 20.3. Wow. 20.3 probably very long ago, and then probably hold for very long and continue to accumulate some position. That's great, right? That's great because definitely you are sitting on profits, and it's good for you to think about whether you want to accumulate or you want to take profits, right? So let's take a look at WFC, Wells Fargo's, right? And let's take a look at what happened over the past couple of days or even months, right? So as you can see for Wells Fargo, right, longer term trend, I don't really have much issue with longer term trend, but of course, short term trend, as you can see, if I were to zoom out, right, you see the longer term trend. Just focus on the, let me turn this off. Just focus on the red and the blue line. Generally, it's okay, right? It's generally heading up, but it's just that the short-term trend sometimes, because this is a financial stock as well, and it does get some fluctuations here and there, and you can see that it typically goes up and down, and it breaks below the longer-term trend, right? But what actually happens now is that we can see that over the past, actually, in fact, in last year, Q4, right? Actually, the uptrend I would say is pretty solid, right? Because all three moving averages are actually heading up. There's this part whereby in November it came down a bit, but and it was actually heading up, and all averages are aligning in the same direction, right? But it was only towards the mid of Jan, earnings results came out, right? That was where we started to see weakness coming in, and has been pointing down. So now we know that short term, long term doesn't align, because short term very clearly is now. Longer term is actually pointing up, right? So when the signals, what can we see is that we do see a 1GT bullish signal appearing, but that doesn't mean that when we see a bullish signal appearing, we straight away take into account of anything, because at the end of the day, we always must look at bigger picture, right? It doesn't mean that, you see, at this point in time, it doesn't mean that a bullish signal come out on 6th of Feb. Wow, now at $86, maybe I faster go and buy. No, right? Because we still want to take note of where are the supports and where are the resistance, and what are some of the key things that we want to monitor before taking action, because we want to have as many confirmation as possible, right? So what is it exactly are we going to be looking out for, right? And over the past 3 days, right, you can see that the price actually dropped very, very quickly over the past 3 days, about 8%, right? And it took WFC maybe about, I think, 2 weeks plus to actually climb up 8%, right? So I just recently read somewhere, and I think this quote is very applicable for this. It was saying that, bulls, right, usually climb the stairs. It's very slow, but bears, right, they typically like to jump out of the window. Then it's very fast, right? Which typically is such a situation, right? See, bulls really very slow, like climb up very slowly, but bears, they just like to jump out of the window and then it just tumble very fast, right? So in this situation, you can see that over the past few days, the price action is indeed pretty bearish, right? Even though, yes, we do have a 1GT bullish signal, right? So then comes the picture of the support and the resistance, right? Because you need to know, like, hey, typically support, that's where buyers are coming in. Are buyers really coming in at the support level? Yeah, I'm not sure, right? I'm not sure at this point in time, because it was just yesterday that we see that price is actually approaching this, I think, 86 support level right over here, right? It's approaching this level. Previously, this level at 86, right? It was actually a resistance, right? Over here, you can see from September, October, November, December, and then it became a support, right? It became a support. January, this was where, buyers actually came in to support the prices, and then it actually rebounded. Once again, as of last night, it actually come back to this 86 support level, right? So I'm not sure whether is this support level able to hold. If you to ask me, today can hold above or not, next week can hold above or not, I don't know, right? I don't know, but I think this is definitely one of the areas or one of the zones that definitely, I think, Ian, you might want to monitor as well to see whether this level is able to hold, right? And if you are thinking about, taking profits, right? Of course, you are definitely sitting on a lot of profits, right? Because $20 is your average cost price. Taking profits wise, I would say that this would be potentially a zone that you could look at to, potentially take some profits. Like, if you would like, don't have to take all, maybe take some profits, because longer term trend still look okay. It's just short term trend a bit weak, right? So if prices is actually able to rebound back up to these like $96, which is near the 96 resistance zone, I think nothing wrong to actually lock in some profits, right? But if you are thinking to actually accumulate position, right now, definitely we are at a support, right? At a support level, right? Which is the 86. But like mentioned, I don't know whether it will hold, right? So the key thing is over the maybe next couple of weeks, you can actually monitor whether these 86 support hold. And the other thing that you want to look out for would be for the 20 days moving average to stop pointing down and at least show some signs of it flattening out. Then perhaps you can consider to actually accumulate more position and increase your exposure, since your average cost price is pretty low. All right. So overall, I think WFC definitely, longer term definitely still looks okay, right? It's just that short term, there is some weakness, and especially when you know that there's short-term weakness, 20 days moving average is pointing down. Sometimes short-term weakness, you don't know how fast or how fast the bears want to jump out of the window, and how low can it go, right? So you want to wait for more stabilization first before you think about actually accumulating some positions. Okay, so that would be for WFC. Yeah, and I hope that helps you for Ian. I'll pass the time back over to Joey to cover the next stock.
All right, thank you so much, Z. And then I think Z mentioned a very good point. It's true, when the stock is moving up, it's like, they will climb the staircase, take very slow one. But when come down, will like take the leaf down very fast one, or like just jump down there very fast one, right? Why? Well, because of the emotions of fear, right? When people, panic and it comes down, people pump, just sell. There could be margin calls being triggered and sell. So sometimes when it go down, very fast, go up, very slow, all right? So, the point about this is that you don't want to let emotions affect you, all right? And in fact, when you affect any other people and not you, that's where you could capture opportunities. Because when people are fearful, you're not fearful. You're looking at the opportunity to get back in. Does it make sense about? All right. So I hope that helps. Good one, Z. All right. On mentioning about this bullishness and bearishness happening at different kind of like timing, right? Okay. Now let's move on to the next stock, and that will be asked by James, right? I was thinking of getting Western Digital, right? I think the code is WDC, all right? Western Digital. So you're looking to get in, right? I think, James. What is the best support price to get in? As the price fluctuates a lot, is it risky for this stock? Well, so you can see that for this stock, I've already turned on my 1GD Pro indicator. So finally, I got something bullish, because the past few stocks I turned on, wow, very scary, always got bearish signal, then like going down, and people say want to buy also, like my heart a bit pain as well. But this one, thank you so much, James. At least it's a stock whereby I think that it's okay. This one you want to say buy, I think okay go ahead nothing wrong with this stock Why? Because okay, let me show you. So doesn't mean it's always bullish. I can see previously, when we look at it in 2025 for Western Digital, you can see we got a bearish signal. The green line was turning down for like 1-2 months. The red and blue line was down. Long-term trend down, short-term trend down, bearish signal. Then don't buy, okay? You want to wait for the confirmation like this, pam. That was on April 24 last year. Bullish signal appeared. Look at the green line, also started to turn up. The long-term trend took a while, but it started to flatten out as well, right? So all these are confirmations to get back in. And from that bullish signal in April last year to where we are now, right? You can see that it is easily not a 20-30% kind of upside, but from the very bullish signal from here, all right, we are looking at about 657%, all right, in about 7 to 8 months. 600%, guys, right? So just take note, right? So that's how you can write stocks, that are along with the trend, especially if you get a couple of bullish signals. So you see, that was the first one, all right? It became a bit faster somewhere in October, pump, another one. Somewhere in December, pump, another one. Faster, right? So that's where your gains get even more, all right? If you're writing stocks like these that are strong, they are showing bullish signals, they're telling you not to get out, all right? Maybe think about buying more, no problem. All right, so this is a pretty good stock. I would say long-term trend is up, short-term trend is up, bullish signals since April still in play after a 600% gain. And some people might ask me, that, hey, Joey, 600% already, you sure or not? You sure can buy? You think James still can buy 600%, right? But let me tell you, right, I think this stock was actually in our watch list, right, since last year. And when we covered it then, it was something like this, right over here, right? We actually got a bullish signal coming out. It was actually $157, right? So same thing, we got a first bullish signal, it went all the way up here. It was a 351%, right? In November, it was up by 350. Now it's 600, but the time was 350%, right? And same thing, people say, Joey, 350%, you sure or not? So much already, I think going to come down already, going to crash already. But that's the thing, right? A strong stock is one whereby, it has proven itself to get bullish signals. It may be more expensive, right? It might have gone up already. You could have gone in earlier, but you didn't, you missed it, but doesn't matter, right? There could still be more upside momentum. So it was expensive 3 months ago, 5 months ago, last month, last week, right? But the point here is that could there be a potential to ride it even more, even though it's more expensive? Make sense so far? All right. So that's a little bit about the mindset I want to share with you guys as well, right? In terms of, people could be thinking it's expensive, but it was expensive, to be honest, in October and November, even in August, right? But it has continued to move up, right? So we want to buy stocks that are strong, a stock that's proven itself in an uptrend. Not one that is like going down, bearish signal, and then cheap, then you want to go and buy cheaper, you go and buy, all right? And then go down some more. We don't want. We buy strong, firm, bullish signals, trend up. Yes. A bit more expensive, doesn't matter. So what? Can go up, can do, right? We ride it. You see what I'm saying so far? All right. So that is kind of like the mindset to have, right, in terms of riding up trending stocks. And maybe what I could do, right, is to turn on another powerful feature that will be trailing support. So you can see for this Western Digital, this trailing support has popped out since April. Up, flat, follow. Up to now, the trailing support is around $220, right? From popping out here when it was $35, follow until $220. You see what I'm saying so far, right? As long as you're above it, you're fine because we give you the space to be above it. All right. You want to go down a bit, never mind, but you must be above it because we have given you the volatility space to stay or to be supported above the trailing support. And since May, April last year, we have been above it, right? In fact, we neared it, buyers came out, and we go even higher, right? Near it, buyers came out, we go even higher, right? So if it dips near it, it could be a good opportunity to think about getting in. It's a bit cheaper, quite attractive price, right? So I would say a potential entry, back to your question, James, right? What is the best support price to get in as the price fluctuates a lot? Well, the best entry would be anywhere near the trailing support. I would say near 220, 230, 240. That would be the best. All right. That would be where it's a higher reward to risk because it really deep to that level. You get in a bit cheaper. Best. Great. Right. But the thing is that I don't know whether it will dip for you to buy. Because sometimes you want it to dip to buy. Doesn't mean the stock will know that you're waiting there, then it will go down for you to buy lah. Right? I mean, you might just stay up there and then never come down. Then you just wait there for nothing, never cannot buy, Make sense? All right. So that is a trading spot whereby if it does dip there, great. But what if it doesn't dip there? What could be the next higher horizontal support to maybe think about getting in? Right? A bit more expensive, no choice because it never come down, right? You have to buy slightly more expensive. What would that level be? Well, that's good to find out. I think that would be this level. So you see over the past like 1 over week, but 250. So I would say that 250 to maybe 260. So somewhere over here, can you see, right? 250, 260 plus. That's where some bargain hunting have came out already. You can see the short-term trend, the green line, obviously, it is still up. So that could be a higher level, above the horizontal support level from 250 to 270. If it does dip, that could be a good entry as well. All right. So this is Western Digital. Not too bad. Finally a good bullish stock, all right, whereby you think about positioning yourself. In fact, we might see a bit of a resistance at 300. So 300 quite clearly, that will be a psychological resistance. In fact, yesterday we went all the way to past 300 and a long upper shadow. There's a candlestick that came out whereby, sellers came back and push it all the way down. So this 300, guys, is a key selling level. As we near 300, that's where we can expect some selling. 292, 295, 29 something now, 28 something. I think that's where selling can happen as well. So you can take some profit if you want there. But I'm more looking at if the 300 were to give way, targets could be revised even more. We may even see a new 1GT bullish signal. All right. So as I say, guys, we do have a light version, the 1GT light indicator, can have 14 days test drive, right? The link is right in the chat, right? It guides you on when to get in and also when not to get out, right? Or to get out when the time comes. Right now, I don't see that there's any issue to get out because it still looks good. Why not ride some more until a bearish signal appears, right? So if a bearish signal like the red color like this appears, right? Then get out lah. Maybe over here, maybe over here, maybe over here. I don't know, right? But if it comes out, then we get out. But if not, then continue to ride lah. Make sense? All right. So that is for Western Digital. Let me pass on the mic to Z to cover the next stock. Z?
All right. Thanks, Joey. Okay, so the next stock over here will be by Zoom, right? Zoomfin. What is the chart for SLV telling us? Any signal yet? Seems the flush. Thanks. Okay, so let's take a look at SLV, right? So SLV is actually a iShares ETF that tracks the silver price, lah, right? So as you can see, for I believe Zoom, you are also monitoring this ETF, right? I'm not too sure whether you are actually holding on to any position. You are thinking about entering. Yeah, so maybe if you're still here, you can let me know lah. Okay, but what we are actually seeing now, right, is SLV, like what you said, the flush, right, whereby I believe you are talking about this day 28 to 29, and price actually came down very, very swiftly. I think in a 1 day span of time, over 30%, right? 30%. Yeah, so since then, I mean, we are currently still seeing a 1GT bearish signal. There is no bullish signal yet, right? There's no bullish signal yet. And in terms of the trend wise, I mean, longer term trend, gradually it's still like, moving up gradually and heading upwards for the red and blue line. But for the shorter term, it was previously indeed, yes, it was going up, it's flattened out. And if I were to zoom in right now, can you guys see that it has already started to show signs of it pointing down? So not great, right? Not great. Plus, we got a 1GT bearish signal, right? We got 1GT bearish signal. So this is because for SLV, because this is I would say it's commodities related, and also because of like all the political issues that's going on at this point in time with Trump in the administration, things that he say could send all these commodities going up and down, right? And also, as you can see over here, like spot silvers dive 10% as Fed rate cuts hope fade after recent job data release, right? Whereby the unemployment rate, I believe it came in lower than expected, right? So that is also telling you that perhaps the economy is getting like slightly better, right? And then people are not so keen into all these commodities and golds, and that is why it could also cause the ETF to go up and down. And you can see that over the past week, in fact, right, it is indeed actually very volatile. You can see that it gaps up, gap down, go up, go down, and if people who are not comfortable with this such volatility and your risk appetite is unable to take such a risk, right? Typically, perhaps you might not want to consider this lah, because even though yes, you might be FOMO, right? Everybody is talking about silver, everybody talking about gold. But then if you go in without any plan and you go in just because you are FOMO and you scared like, hey, you miss out, then after that it goes up and down, your feeling also go up one day, go down one day, go up one day, go down one day, and then it's very emotionally tiring for yourself lah. Right, so just want to reiterate that it doesn't mean that everybody's talking about stock, talking about a commodities, talking about like a specific stock, you have to get in, right? You get in, you can get in. Not say you cannot get in, but you get in with a plan. You must get in with a plan. You must know when to take profits, when is your entry price, when is your stop loss, so that you won't be so emotionally draining on yourself, especially on volatile stocks like that. Okay, so for SLV, as you can see, it is the support that I've drawn right over here, right? I would say it's around 65, right? Around this 65 support zone, whereby previously, as you can see, this was where buyers came in, and then after that, it pushed price all the way up to a high of about 110, right? And then a couple of days back, this was where it get down again, and then buyers came in, rebounded back up. So now it seems like, it is probably approaching back to the $65. Not too sure whether will it hold, but overall, at this point in time, I would say that because of the volatility, and also because we see a 1GT bearish signal, plus the fact that the 20 days moving average is pointing down, I think this is something that perhaps you want to be a bit more cautious. You want to be a bit more cautious. Don't go in without a plan, right? Because if prices were to, go up, go down, and it breaks the 65, I think if it does break the 65, right, potentially we might see more downside towards, perhaps $50, right? Around the $50 range right over here. But of course, that being said, this counter, or I would say anything to do with like commodities or like gold and silver, it is very reactive to news as well, right? So that is something that you're going to bear in mind with if you do decide to actually buy into any of this stocks lah. Okay, so I think for SLV, like mentioned, right, 65, I think this is one of the levels or the zones that you want to watch out for, and also to continue monitoring, for the 20 days moving average, right, to see is it still pointing down, or has it like stabilized. And I think for Zoom, right, I'm not too sure if you already have the indicators, because if you do not have the indicator yet, then you can actually try out the 1GT light trial, right, because that is where you turn on and off, you are seeing what exactly we are seeing. Okay, so that perhaps once you try it, if there's a 1GT bullish signal coming out, that's where you'll also be notified. Okay, so that is SLV, a very, very quick one for SLV. Just take note of the volatility for this type of stocks and those stocks that actually track commodities prices. Okay, so with that, I think I'll pass the time over to Joey again to cover the next US stock.
Okay, thank you so much. Let's go ahead and let's move on to the next one. So I think next one we have this stock that is called Netflix, NFLX. So we have user EF2U, all right, holding Netflix at $82. Hold or cut loss. All right, so I hope still over here. I hope you're still over here, user. Not too sure when you mentioned you hold it. I mean, you got it at $82. Was it like last week? Was it like last week? So last week it was like, 81, 82, 83 lah. So could it be like last week when you got in? Or is it like last year, November, when you got in, then you went all the way up, then now come all the way down, right? So I'm not too sure when you actually got in 82 lah, right? Hopefully it is last week, all right? Because I mean, if you got in last year 82 and go all the way up and you from making money, you hold all the way back down, right? Then by right should not be like that lah. But you told me you got in last week, well, then of course you want to have a plan as well. You want to have a plan as well, right? Or bought last week. Thank you so much, right, for just giving me a bit more context. So very good. Let me just delete this. You bought last week. Okay, so let's go ahead to see whether is it a right decision, right? So let me go ahead to turn on the bullish and bearish signals from 1GT Pro indicator. As I say, guys, I think Z has mentioned as well, we do have a light version whereby you could simply turn on the bullish and bearish signals and the moving averages. So let's turn it on. Pump. Okay. So what do you think? Right. We got pump. We got two 1GT bearish signals. All right. Not like last week, not last month. Since like October, we got two bearish signals. The long-term trend is down. Look at the red and the blue line. The green line, don't need to say that. The green line is like down. Wow, still down. Now still down. No? I think still down. Oh. So my question to you is, why you buy? Right? Don't by right, should not buy at 82, 81, 85, whatever. Doesn't matter, because basically the confirmations that we have. I mean, if you have these two, as I say, you have seen the bearish signal, the short-term trend is down, the long-term trend is down, and then you tell me you want to buy, I would say that it's up to you, all right? I don't know, why you want to buy, unless you can give me two good reasons why you want to buy, okay? Yeah, but I'll probably give you like 10 reasons why not to buy as well. All right, Ken? So we don't buy, when we don't have the confirmation, right? So never mind, right? So let's say you got in at $80, $82, okay? Well, because you might think that, oh, yes, fallen from 120 to 100 to 90 to $80, right? And it's quite cheap. In fact, really quite cheap. From here, go all the way to here, down by 30-40%. Really quite cheap. Agree, okay? But I say we don't buy because it's cheap. All right? We buy because, we get the confirmation of a reversal. Like for example, over here, right? Pump, two bullish signals, all the way up. Fine, go ahead, all right? Wow, this one, pop. So many bullish signals. You tell me you want to buy, I will say go ahead. I don't think so much, okay? But now we got bearish signal since October, everything is pointing down. We don't want to buy. So that's the first thing, right? We never want to buy a stock that is just, looking more bearish, right? So back to your question now, should we hold or cut loss? So when you bought, I think maybe what could happen was that maybe you think that, we have been supported above $80, right? $80, you can see we got rebound, then next day rebound a bit, then go down, then rebound again, right? So you maybe think that, hey, maybe $80 you buy, if it rebounds to maybe, a bit of resistance at about 86, right? So that could happen, right? So we thought that maybe if it does rebound a bit or up, then rebound a bit, maybe you want to take some profit near 85 to 86. Okay, good, fine. If you tell me that's the case, well, then that is a kind of like short-term trade. I probably would advise you not to do that as well, because you are against the trend. But it's a short-term trade. You want to make that little gain. I think that is okay, right? We will probably not do it, but if you do that, you need to have a plan, because $80 is a support. Buyers have came out near $80, all right? Rebounded. But if the $80 were to give way, if the $80 support were to be broken, and that's what we're seeing right now, right? 2 nights ago, Wednesday night, we went and we closed at 79.62. It's a close down below it, right? Yesterday we went even lower. So it's a very firm breakdown of the $80 support, right? So by right, if you want to do that short-term trade, right, rebound a bit, you get out, right? All right, by right, as I say, should not lah, but let's say you really want to buy, right? Then you need to have a plan to get out to stop loss below $80, right? 77, 76, right? 78, whatever, right? Just have a plan to stop loss because you hope that you go up, but what if it breaks the support and go lower? And I can tell you that's where all these bearish signals can continue to play out, right? So you don't want to just buy and then hope you go up, but then go down, you don't plan, and then you just hold all the way down, right? And that's what we are seeing for some of the stocks that we covered, right? So this, so this one at least better lah. I mean, you just bought last week only, right? It's a bit of a loss. It came down a little bit, but you tell me you bought at like 110 or 120, what jalan, then you all the way down already, right? You don't want it you don't want to hold it more such that if it goes even lower, your losses could widen. Does it make sense, All right. So let's take a look at maybe some of the support levels. I'm not trying to scare you, but you can take a look at some of the support levels. You can see that the next support level could potentially be at about $70. Okay, let me just show you. Let me just remove here. So $70, that was where we were, right over here. July, August 2024. Next one, all the way to even that $60. So that could be the next downside. All right. So if you're just holding on to it, I mean, hoping that you rebound, but we could potentially retest the previous support. So we don't want to hold, right? When we get out, we only get in when there are signs of a reversal, when there are bullish signals. As of now, I'm sorry, but there just isn't anything bullish, right? That I can say for this stock, right? And even the long-term trend is also down already, right? You tell me the long-term trend up, okay, I give you some chance, right? But now the long-term trend is also down already since like 2 months ago, 2 months ago. Right? So not so good. I think would want to have a plan, not to just hold blindly, but to get out, to cut loss, or at least reduce some exposure. Make sense so far? All right. So I hope that helps, user. I hope that helps, right? Make sure you have a plan. All right. Let me pass on the mic to Z to cover the next stock. Z?
All right, thanks, Joey. I fully agree with like what Joey mentioned about Netflix lah. So don't just because you like to watch Netflix and you subscribe to Netflix, then you want to buy into a stock and just continue holding lah. Always we want to look at the bigger picture, and also if it's not so good, then I think time to rip off the bandage and also just take the loss lah. Right? Yeah. So okay, let me move on to the next stock over here, and that would be by John. John is asking about Apple, right? Can cover Apple looking to buy now with 1 GT bullish signal. Great. So you actually can see the bullish signal as well. That's good, right? And do I also wait for the 20 days MA to cross above the 100 MA to be very sure? Okay, let's take a look at Apple, right? So you mentioned that you're looking to buy. So I will assume that you don't have any stocks lah. You don't have any holdings right now. And we want to take a look at, okay, thinking about buying, right? So first thing, always go back to the basics, right? We want to take a look at the trend, right? So if I were to remove everything, when we just purely look at the moving average, right? We just purely look at the moving average on its own. What do we see? We see that the longer term trend, okay, not too bad, right? Red is above the blue, and over here somewhere in October, that was when red actually crossed above the blue, which is a good indication that the longer term trend is starting to turn up, right? Short term trend wise, yes, it was good. Then it started to came down at the start of 2026. And now it's starting to show some signs of it pointing back up again. Right? Great. Yeah, but like what you mentioned, right? I think you also spotted it whereby 20 days MA is below the 100 days MA, which is the red line. Typically, what we want to see is like that, right? Green, then red, then blue. But now, not yet, right? Not yet, which is a good spot, right? Which is what you are also looking out for, which is great, right? Which is great. So then let's take a look at the signals, right? So just now you were saying that the signals, you also see a 1 GT bullish. Yeah, correct. Also got 1 GT bullish signal come out on the 2nd of February, right? On the 2nd of February. So then now we know that the trend, longer term trend, not bad, right? Short term trend also starting to turn up. We got 1 GT bullish signal. Yeah, potentially not too bad for a stock for us to deep dive even deeper to know where are the support levels to potentially think about buying, right? So then we look at support and the resistance, right? So as you can see right over here, of course, the immediate resistance, right, that I would draw, right, would be, I think, somewhere around this 280. Maybe some of you guys maybe might draw at about 290 because you would say that this is the high whereby it tested, right, and came back down. I would say not wrong, right? Not wrong, because like we always mentioned, resistance is always a zone, right? It's always a zone that we always look at. It's not a specific point at 280, 290. And why I would rather draw at 280, right, over here is because I believe that, as you can see, based on this 280 has been tested more times, I would say, definitely tested more times than the 290 point. So that is why when a level is being tested multiple times, I will give more weight to that level. So that's the reason why I would draw my resistance about 280 instead, right? But of course, I don't deny that 290 could be some resistance as well, okay? So then we talk about support level, right? Support level. Where do you think the support level would be? For support, perhaps I think I would put it around this 245, right? Let's do at 245. This is where previously we see that, buyers come in to support the prices, pushing it back to the 280 resistance, right? Then this is where selling pressure came in, profit taking happened, push it back down again, tested one more time during, when is this, mid of January, 20th of January, right? So I would say that 240 would be the support level, right? The support level. So now we know that, there is the support, there's the resistance, the trend looking not too bad, right? So typically when we think about buying, of course, we want to think about buying near a support, right? Which is, it could be here, right? Somewhere near the 245, which is the potential buy zones where previously buyers came in, right? It could be this level, right? But I think maybe one thing that if, John, I'm not too sure if you've got a 1GD Pro indicator or not, but if you do have, what you want to do is you want to turn on this trailing support and resistance function, right? And this is where you can actually see the dynamic support and resistance. Because like what we mentioned, horizontal support and resistance is you own self draw on. It's static, right? It's just there. If you don't move it, it will just be there, right? But the trailing support and resistance, it follows the prices, right? And you can see that the trailing support, right, is somewhere around, I think now it's about 255, right? Slightly above the 245. And trailing support, not saying that it's not valid, it's also valid because it's a trailing support for a reason, right? And this could also be the zone that you could be looking at setting some price alert to potentially position yourself for entry as well, right? Besides this, this is also valid, right? The one at 245, definitely also valid because that's a horizontal support and this is a trailing support. But because the thing is that sometimes you tell yourself, okay, I want to buy at maybe about 246 when the price come back to 246, but sometimes it could never go back to 246 for you to buy, right? So you can potentially set price alerts at these two zones, right? Because both are valid support zones for you to potentially accumulate on the dips, all right? But of course, like what you mentioned, do you want to wait for the 20 days MA to cross above the 100 days MA? I think that would depend on whether your confirmation and conviction for this counter as well, because typically we want to have as many confirmations as possible. And when 20 days MA is actually above the 100 days MA, it will be even better, right? Because typically this is what, this is the moving average that we want to see when we talk about longer term and shorter term uptrend being aligned, right? So, and also yesterday, I just bear in mind that yesterday, right, we see a very, very long bearish candlestick. And if I were to just click on this, right, on TradingView for the latest updates, you guys can see that Apple share actually fell 5% after a report indicated delays in the series upgrade, now expected to launch in May instead of March. So sometimes all these news could actually affect the stock price, and you can see that it's quite a drastic drop, about 5% drop, right? And it's pretty close to I would say the trailing support now. So I think this is where you can actually set some price alert. But of course, do take note that around this 280, this is where we potentially could expect to see some selling pressure returning. So make sure to do your position sizing and also, your trading plan to calculate whether if, your risk reward ratio is it worth it or not for you to actually take the trade as well, right? Because your risk preference, your risk appetite, that one, I don't know, right? Everybody is different, right? So, but do have a trading plan in place, knowing that this potentially is where you can actually, set some price alert to notify you of like when prices reach this level to take some profits as well. And then, if prices were to reach the support zone, that's where potentially can take some action. And also remember to have your stop loss plan in place, not just entry and exit, but also stop loss in case if prices, what happens if the bad news were to continue? I wouldn't know, right? I wouldn't know if the bad news were to continue. If it does continue and it breaks below the 245, then that is where we may see more weakness returning, and we don't want to hold on to the losers. Okay, so for Apple, I think for now, John, you can take note of some of the levels that is mentioned. And also make use of the trailing support to potentially, see if there you can actually take a reference point for a potential zone of entry. Okay, so that would be for Apple. I will pass the time back over to Joey to cover the next US stock.
All right, thank you so much, Z. Let's move on to the next one. Okay, and very quickly, I think we have covered a total of 10 stocks already. So let me just go to list the 10 stocks that we covered, right? Right at the beginning, we covered what we call the markets, the S&P500 index. And the very first stock that I covered was Alphabet, GOOGL. Then Z covered on TSM. I did on Oracle. Micron was covered, Palantir, Wells Fargo. We have Western Digital. We have SLV, iShares, Silver Trust. Netflix, I covered it. And Z just covered Apple, AAPL. Now let's go ahead to cover the next one. So you can see, guys, we have covered about 10 stocks. There's more than 40, 50 over stocks. We did a quick count, all right? So first of all, our apologies if we cannot cover all the US stocks, guys. It will take probably like 5 or 10 hours now, right? So hopefully yours will be the one that we cover, or we try to give it a bit more priority for those stocks that a lot of people are asking about. All right, so let me move on to the next one. Okay, let's take a look at the next stock, and that would be POWL, right? POWL, POWL Industries. So you can see that I've turned on the 1GT Pro indicator on this stock called POWL Industries, right? Not too bad. So your question is that you bought POWL at $172. Now it's $592. Well done, all right? You're definitely sitting on some very good profits, right? You bought at 170, so I think would be around here. I'm not too sure whether did you see the bullish signal coming out, right? And got in? If yes, good, right? $172 right over here, all right? And in your view, is there more upside in the near term? Now let's find out. So I'm very happy when I see stock like this because quite clearly you can see that the longer term trend is up. The red is up, blue is up, red is above the blue. Long-term trend up. We get one tick. The short-term trend must be up as well. And we look at what we call the green 20 days moving average line, right? So we got the first bullish signal right over here in June last year. Look at the green line. It was just up all the way. And then we saw some selling in November. So based on the very first bullish signal, it was about 94%. All right. And then we see a bearish signal, 94%. I think you can take some profit lah, or get out. Why? Because the green line also turned down, right? Get out first, never mind. Right? Because you don't know how low it can go. Right? But in this case, luckily it went down a bit, it stabilized, and a new 1GT bullish signal actually appeared. And when it appeared again, the green line actually went from down back to up. Is it still up? It's still up lah, right? So still okay, right? The long-term trend is up. Bullish signal is in play, right? Since 12th of January, right? Today is the 13th of Feb, so it's like about a month back, right? Not last week, guys, it's about a month back, 12th of January, right? We got a 1GT bullish signal. And of course, just push up a little bit higher, all the way to now is about a 6. Like that also got 63%, 63%, right? So the whole point is that when you see a bullish signal plus other confirmations, right, like the trend turning up, it could guide you to get back in. All right. So let's take a look at it right now. Can there still be more upside? Well, my take is this. I think it still looks bullish, right? We can turn on the trailing support to see what is the space we've given it to hopefully move even higher, right? So you can turn it on. The trailing support that's popped out in January has started to follow it up. All right, it is right over here around that $470. So as long as you stay above this 470, you can see it's quite volatile. So there's quite a bit of space between the price and the trailing support. Right, so there's a bit of space, right? You can see, right, space, quite volatile. So if you're more volatile, we give you more space. If you don't really move much, then you don't need so much space, then we follow you a bit closely. You get what I mean so far? Right? So for this stock, quite volatile. I mean, look at the way it moves up, right? It's indeed quite volatile, but within like a month, it's like 60%, right? But let's take a look at what could be a near-term horizontal support that came out over the past 1 week. Well, I would say that it seems like 550, right? $550 is where some bargain hunting has came out over the past 1 week. Look at this, right? Bullish candle, we went down, buyers came back, push it back up, right? So the range, I think, is about $550 to about $600. So it's like a $50 range, right? So it looks good, right? Just that it might be consolidating, maybe resting a while from 550 to 600, right? Which is good. I'll take a rest because 60% in 1 month. I think you take a rest first. You break the 600, that's where the new phase of upside can continue as well. All right, so that is POWL Industry. Not too bad, at least one of the bullish stocks in the US market. So in the US market, guys, there are stocks which are not doing well. You get bearish signal like Netflix and some others, right? But there are also bullish stock as well, which you want to know to focus on. All right, and that brings me to the next point, right? I mean, the US market has been pretty bearish, right? So if you want to focus a little bit on the Singapore market, and today is not the Singapore AMAS, right? Next Friday will be the Singapore AMAS, right? So if you want to get some of my top Singapore trade ideas, right, for free daily, right, by WhatsApp, all right, find out how you can become a client of mine in Philips Securities. In case you're not a client of mine in Philips Securities, you might be just scrolling through YouTube and Facebook. Check it out. The link is right in the chat. Click on it, find out how you can become a client of mine in Philips Securities, where I'm a broker with my team, so you can get some of those top ideas daily for free. Especially if you are trading in Singapore, you need a trading account, right? But if you are like have a trading account and then you log in, some app or some website, you log in online platform, right? And then nobody send you any idea, no video, no training, no WhatsApp, nobody contact you, then you want to click on the link to find out more. So you get some of those ideas for free at no additional cost, right? It's the same as whatever you pay when you're trading, right? So if you don't get any service from your own broker, check it out, link in the chat. Cool, all right? So that is some of the service that we provide. I mean, just thinking about some of the bullish Singapore stock, which has been pretty bullish for the Singapore market. Check it out. Okay, Ken? So that is for POWL Industry, POWL. I think not too bad. Looks pretty bullish above the 550 horizontal support level. Let me pass on the mic to Z to cover the next US stock.
All right, thanks, Joey. Okay, so let me go on to the next US stock, and that will be by Abdul, right? So now it's on the flip side. So Joey just now covered the POWL, not too bad, right? But I think this one, not so good. But why not so good, right? Why not so good? Let's dive into it, right? So Abdul is checking about Salesforce CRM, bought at 235, started doing DCA to 206. So DCA, for those of you who don't know, it means that dollar cost average, right, to 206. But now it dropped to 185. Should I hold or buy the dip? Bearish 1GT has been on for a while. Wow, so Abdul, you also got the 1GT signal. I will assume that you can also turn on and see for yourself, right? So because you tell me that bearish 1GT has been on for a while. Okay, so let's take a look at Salesforce, right? Let's take a look at Salesforce. So let me just put 1 year, right? 1 year. Okay, we can see 1 year. Okay, so 1 year, maybe let me see how many of you guys are here right now. About 120 odd. Yeah, okay, 120 over of you who are here right now. Maybe you guys can help me and also Abdul out, right? What do you guys think about the trend for Salesforce? Good or bad? You can let me know. G for good, B for bad. Very easy, Let me know, what do you guys think about the trend for Salesforce? Good, G, or B for bad? Let me know in the chat. Let's see. Ray is bad. Ian, B. So many B, Brandon also B. B, Simon B, Sarah also B. Wow, okay, a lot of B. A lot of you guys think that the Salesforce trend not so good. Abdul, so this one, all of them, they also say the trend not so good. So let's take a look at why we say the trend not so good, right? Because I think even if, let's say, I don't draw any lines, I remove all my drawing. Remove all my drawing, and I also turn off all the signals. You can also see that, wow, actually since 2025 to where we are at now, not that great, right? Even if I don't turn on anything, you all can see from the chart yourself, right? So let me turn back on. Okay, so and plus now you tell me that you got the signals, right? You can turn on the 1GT bullish and bearish signal. You can see that 1GT bearish signal has been on for a while, right? Since the start of January, first one, and 29th of January, second one, right? And when we turn on the 1GT signal, right? I mean, of course, we can also see the trend, right? The trend also not so good, right? The blue above the red, above the green, and generally they are all kind of like heading downwards, right? The blue also going down, the red also going down, the green don't need to say that one confirm going down, right? All three are going down, not that great. And plus, if you have been monitoring this stock or you have drawn your lines, you would have known that the support have been consistently being broken, right? And when that actually happens, your support consistently broken, it's not so good because it's telling you that the bears are taking over, the bears are in control. That's why your support is broken. Buyers are not willing to come in to buy and support it, right? And your this support all become resistance, right? So in fact, right over here, I was looking at this stock the other day as well, right? And also because people have been talking about all the sell down in all the softwares, right? And I mean Salesforce is not spared as you can see as well. And you can see that this level, right? Actually 190. I was hoping that maybe 190, maybe we might see some buyers coming back in, but unfortunately, no. It actually held up maybe I'll say 1, 2, 3, 4, maybe 4 or 5 days, right? But then over the past 2 days, we see that actually this 190 has also been broken as well. And in fact, I should change this to a red instead of a green. And why did I draw at 190? Is because you can see that if I were to go back and you see the past price action, this was back in March, right? This was back in March. This was where buyers actually came in to support the prices, especially here as well. As you can see in October, then it surged all the way up, right? So perhaps I was thinking buyers could come back in to support the prices here, but no, it didn't, and it went down even more, right? It went down even more, and now 190 has turned from what we call a support to become a resistance, right? And of course, now you got to think, if it breaks the 190, what is the potential downside am I looking at for Salesforce, right? So if you were to look back again, you can see right over here, right? This was same thing back in 2023 already. This was the levels that it was a resistance turned to become a support and price rebounded. So the next level that potentially we are looking at for CRM, I mean, would be none other than 170 170, right? I mean, I'm not sure if the prices will continue to head down to 170, break the 170 and go even lower, but can that happen? I mean, yes, right? Because we know that this stock is pretty bearish at this point in time, right? So for Abdul, go back to Abdul. You say you bought CRM at 235 and you started doing dollar cost averaging down to 206. So typically, we don't want to average down. We don't want to dollar cost average down by buying on the downtrend, because I think we sound like a broken record, right? Like what Joey and myself, we have also mentioned multiple times, whereby if the stock is in a downtrend, you don't want to buy, and then you go down some more, you buy some more, go down some more, you buy some more, then your unrealized losses at the end of the day, you'll be sitting on huge unrealized losses and not knowing what to do, especially if you got in without a plan. Right, so we don't want that. We don't want that, right? So now that it has dropped even more, definitely you are sitting on even more losses, right? But like what Joey mentioned earlier on, it's not that we are trying to scare you, but this is what the chart is telling us, right? The chart is telling us that there's 2-1 bearish signal, trend not so good, supports are being broken, right? And potential downside that we are looking at is maybe perhaps another 10%, right? So I think for this stock, based on the framework that we have, typically we would not encourage anybody to hold on to the stock, especially when you know that it's pretty bearish, right? Maybe you have conviction in the in the company, but when you have conviction in the company, you can also buy when the stock starts to turn up, when it starts to reverse. It doesn't have to mean that you buy and hold the conviction all the way down, right? So perhaps this one, I'm not too sure how big of your position is at. Like, I'm not too sure whether you did your position sizing or what was your trading plan initially. Has it already hit your stop loss? But for this counter, perhaps you might want to consider to think about reducing some exposure as well, because we don't want to sit on the counter and continue for it to go all the way down. We want to hold on to a stock to ride all the way up, but not hold on to a stock to ride all the way down. Okay, so Abu, maybe you might want to set some alerts as well, especially if let's say this 170 is broken. Maybe you might want to consider to take some action, do something about it, right? Rather than not taking any action at all and just not looking at it, because that's one of the worst thing that you can do if you're sitting on a downtrending stock. You don't look, then suddenly this stock could it go to $100, $50? Maybe, right? It could, right? So take action, right? We need to take action to try to minimize the losses, because the whole thing about trading is that you want to keep your losses small. Okay, so that would be for CRM. Abdul, I hope that helps, and I'll pass the time back over to Joey to cover the next US stock.
Okay, thank you so much. Let's move on to the next one, right? So I will cover the next one, which will be MPWR. And that's asked by Edwin. Thank you so much, Edwin, right, for giving me a bit of a context, Monolithic Power system, right? So we have been covering a bit of bearish stocks, red bearish signal and starts coming down. I think Z is saying that, oh, you want to have a plan to get out, cut loss, right? You don't want to hold all the way down, right? And that's exactly what I think, right? But finally, we have one whereby you can hold to go up one, right? Because for everything seems like going down, but actually there are a few. All right, I'm glad that Edwin is sharing stocks like this as well, whereby not too bad, right? There are a few whereby when things are going down, doesn't mean everything is going down. Some is still going up, right? So you should be holding on to those that is going up, those that are strong, that can hopefully move up even higher, all right, and can make more profits rather than the one that is going down and you hold all the way down. Jialat. Make sense? All right. So let's take a look at this stock right over here called Monolithic Power System. So I bought MPWR around $980 and 1,000 plus. So I think maybe you got in 980. Okay, maybe around here. I think maybe last month, right? Edwin, maybe somewhere over here or here. Then maybe 1,000 plus. You got in over here. Very good, right? So you can see that for Monolithic system, right? We got bullish signals in May, pump, all the way up. A bearish signal, get out, take some profit, right? Let's stabilize. Wait for the new 1 GT bullish signal to come back again, then you get back in. All right. Did it come back? Yeah, it came back, right over here on the 6th of January. It appeared. All right. But we were still trading below the 1,000. So 1,000, you can see, was a psychological resistance level. So we kind of attempted to break the 1,000 and the 1 GT bullish signal actually appeared. But finally, when it broke the 1,000 about a week later, plus the green line also turned up. There we go. From 1,000 all the way to $1,155, right? So a bullish signal, the short-term trend turned up, the longer-term trend, look at the red and blue, they're on up since last year. They're very easy, no problem. All right, so there we go, right? So good that you've got in some. I think based on this bullish signal, I think it looks pretty bullish. Let's see if you could actually add on more. Well, so that's a good thing because most people, right, I would say that they are always looking to add on more. Like what Z has mentioned, right? When the stock is going down, right? So when it's going down, they will say like, oh, it's cheaper. Can I add on more? Average down. Cheaper, right? So you buy some more, right? Then go down some more, you go and buy some more. Then go down some more, you go and buy some more, right? Go down, buy until it's what? Bye-bye, right? We don't do that, all right? But now, it's a good mindset because now actually it's going up, So Edwin actually have bought it at 980 and 1,000 plus, right over here. So actually he got in cheaper, and now he actually went up already. So actually it's more expensive. So most people will be thinking about selling, right? Because you really make profits, you should think about selling. But Edwin is thinking about buying more, which is actually the correct mindset. It's the correct mindset to have because it's a strong stock. You might have bought it previously when it's a bit cheaper, even though you have gone up a little bit already and you're sitting on some profits. But you could still think about getting in more to hopefully write even more profit. So you average up as it moves up, right? And that's how you really, truly maximize your profits in an uptrend, right? Of course, when you get the confirmations, do anyhow do that when you get the confirmation. Right now you can see that, well, I think it looks pretty bullish because, long-term trend is up, we got a bullish signal, the short-term trend is up as well. All right, so let's take a look at where could you potentially think about adding more positions at Win. All right, so you can see that, well, 1,000 would be what we call a resistance turned to a support level. So you could turn this red line maybe to a green color. That is a psychological new support level. From resistance, it turned to a support, right? But it doesn't mean it might go to 1,000 because over the past 2 weeks, it seems like 1,100 has came out as a little bit of a support level. Look at this, right? Rebound is also where the green 20 days moving average line is as well. So I think that's where some bargain hunting have came out already. And despite market weakness, you can see that it is still holding quite well above the 1,100. If I could turn on the trailing support level, just to get an idea of where is it, right? Is it lower? Is there some space? Well, you see trailing support is slightly lower. Why? Well, because as I said, the trailing support gives the stock the breathing space, the allowance. It follows it as it moves up, but don't follow too closely. Give it some space, don't be like a stalker, right? Give it some space, relax, all right? If it stays above it, you're chill, right? So that's why the trailing support is lower, all right? There's some space. Whereas the horizontal support never gives space. The horizontal support is pretty much a horizontal line that connects the lows that we have seen prices rejecting over the past 2 weeks, right? So that's a horizontal support. So 1,100 horizontal support, 1050, 1040, that's the trailing support level as well. So I'm not too sure whether you will dip that low, because it seems like, as I say, 1,100, buyers are already coming out. All the way to the resistance at 1,250. That seems to be the range over the past 2 weeks. So like 1,001 all the way to 1,250. So not too bad, right? So you can try to get in on dips near 1,001. All right. If the 1,250 gives way, targets could be revised all the way to 1,004, maybe all the way to 1,005 as well. All right. So this is MPWR. Not too bad. Definitely one of the stocks that you want to put in your watch list. Thanks to Edwin for sharing it over here. Definitely looking quite bullish. Okay, Ken. So let me pass on the mic to Z to cover the next stock. Z?
All right, thanks, Joey. Okay, so I think we have been covering like uptrend, downtrend, right? Then maybe now let's take a look at something different, right? Because I saw someone was asking about this stock. Let me find the comment. Give me 1 second. Somebody was asking about Berkshire Hathaway. Let me see. I think I lost the comment. Let me see, where is it? Let me see. Where is the comment? I think the comment has been kind of like buried already. Let me see. Who was it? Was the one that was asking about Berkshire?
Yeah, I think I saw it somewhere.
Okay. Vincent. Yeah. Okay, Vincent. I think I found it. Vincent. Yeah, Vincent over here asking about Berkshire, right? Let me just change my screen. Okay, so contemplating entry into Berkshire, can advise potential buy zone, would current levels be supportive for an entry, right? So yeah, I think for those of you who have been joining us since right from the start to where we are at now, right, about 12:30 p.m., right? Thank you so much for staying all the way, right? But I think we have covered quite a lot of stocks, right, whereby a lot of them are like either uptrend or like downtrend, right? Whereby I believe now you guys should have a rough gauge of like, hey, what can you potentially do, right? But now let's take a look at something that maybe a bit more different now, because as you can see for Berkshire, it's not really up, it's not really down, right? And this is more of, I would say, a sideways consolidation. Like if you guys can see, right, it's generally kind of like just moving sideways, right? Whereby Vincent is actually contemplating getting an entry like into Berkshire, which I assume that you don't have any position. Okay, so then when we look at this, how do I know that it is actually uptrend or downtrending stock, right? So maybe I just turn off the signals first so that we just focus purely on the moving average. So you can see that typically if a stock is going sideways, all the moving averages will kind of like just hit sideways, and generally they are all just moving sideways one, and then it will kind of like keep whipsawing up and down along against each other, right? And if I were to turn on the signals as well, I think this will also reaffirm that is a sideways movement as well, because during a sideways movement, you will also see all these signals like up and down. It will like be bullish, bearish. So it will consistently flip as well, because it is in a sideways consolidation, right? And when we talk about sideways consolidation, definitely there will be a lower bound, there will be an upper bound. And when I talk about lower bound and upper bound, they are typically what we know as support and resistance, because sideways confirm got up and down, there will be a zone that prices were rejected because sellers were there, or there will be a zone that buyers come in to support the prices. So definitely we will need to spot, where is the support and where is the resistance, right, for Berkshire Hathaway. So as you can see over here, I've drawn some lines as well, right? We don't have to go back too far. Maybe at the start of the year, I think that is more than sufficient data for us to actually have a gauge on the trend, right? So then you can see that previously I've drawn my support, right, at around 460. But you can see that I've revised my support, right, my horizontal support higher to perhaps around this 470. So the thing is that I also like to say that, support levels, right, sometimes it's not a static one. It moves as the price moves. So when you draw horizontal support and resistance line, right, when you look at the chart again, if you can see that, you can spot that the buyers are coming in to buy and step into willing to buy at higher prices, right? That's where, your support probably would have shifted up already, right? So that is the reason why you can see over here, right, back in November, right, that is where we started to see buyers coming in to buy at maybe around close to 470, right? It didn't even let price go all the way down to 460. At 470 odds, they come back, right, and to push the price back up. So I would say that the immediate support now, in terms of the consolidation range that we are seeing, somewhere around the 470 zone, right? Around this 470 level, right over here. Let me just put it in green. And okay, so support zone. Okay, so now we move on to resistance, right? So resistance very clearly here, right? This 540, right? I would say that it is a very clear resistance. Previously, as you can see back in 2025, March, April, May, this was where this level was rejected multiple times. Buyers keep trying to push it up, but cannot. Selling pressure is there to consistently reject it and push prices back down, right? That was back in 2025, right? But then after that, towards the tail end of 2025, we started to see sellers also getting more kanjiong. They want to actually sell faster and sell at a lower price. They don't want to sell at 540 anymore. Where are they selling at? They're selling lower, right? Close to, I would say, maybe the 510 to maybe about this 520. I would say that this would be perhaps one of the zones, right, that we start to see selling pressure returning, right? Around 510 to around 520, this will be the zone, right? And now you know that this is the support, this is the resistance, and typically you can see that price are kind of like just going in this manner, right? And furthermore, this is actually supported by the moving averages. Everything is actually just going sideways, right? I mean, of course, yes, we do see bullish signal right now, right? There's a 1GT bullish signal that appeared on the 4th of February, right? I mean, good that we have a bullish signal, but we need to take into account of the bigger picture that overall the price action now is just kind of like moving sideways. So you should potentially expect somewhere near the support, that is where buyers would return, and somewhere near the resistance, that's where sellers would come back. So I would say that this would be more of like, I would call it like a range trading, whereby people could potentially buy near the support and sell near the resistance, because this price action and this chart that we are looking at is not an uptrend, and also it is not a downtrend. It's kind of like just moving sideways, right? Only if, let's say, prices if able to consolidate and then it breaks out above the 520, and we start to see that the moving averages, right, all starts to point up, we get another 1GT bullish signal coming out, then potentially that could be a breakout, right? That could be a breakout, and that could be a start of an uptrend, right? But I mean, of course, there are more things that we want to monitor, and there are more confirmations that we want to look out for. But if prices is, able to break out above the 520, then I think the potential upside target, right, that we are looking at will be back, of course, towards the initial resistance as mentioned over here, right, around 540 first, right? So step by step, right, step by step. You cannot expect the price immediately to go until 540, because right now, this is where we are at, and right now, this is what the chart is telling us based on the moving averages and based on the support and resistance. Okay, so Vincent, I hope this helped in terms of some of the levels that you can consider, for potential range trading if you would like. I mean, not everybody accept range trading. Some people, they prefer up trending stock. Some people, they prefer to short down trending stock, right? I think I just now saw one of the comment as well. So it depends. Right, so you have to check whether are you comfortable with a range trading, and also do your due diligence, as well as making sure that your trading plan is in place, and also take note of your position sizing. Okay, so that would be Berkshire Hathaway. Okay, so with that, I think I'll pass the time back over to Joey to cover the next US stock.
All right, thank you so much. So I think we can go on maybe one final round. Let's do maybe one final round. As I say, guys, there's more than like 40 over 50 over US stocks. We try our best. Maybe today we cover a total of like 16 stock, right? I'll cover the 15 one. Z will cover the 16 one. All right. And let's go ahead. Right, what will be the next stock? And I say at the end, guys, we'll share with you 2 bonus stock that you can put your watch list, right, for potentially more upside. But let's take a look at the next one that I think one of you were asking. Let's see, right? But Guan, this is the stock right now. You're asking about McDonald. Right, hi Joey and Z. I'm considering to buy McDonald. What is the good entry price? So not too bad. McDonald. I mean, I was just eating McDonald like last week with my family and stuff, but didn't really think about buying the stock. But now that you mentioned about McDonald, not too bad. Let's take a look at the stock to see that if one should actually think about buying, or maybe don't buy. All right, let's find out. So you can see that this is McDonald at about $332. The code is MCD, right? And for most part of 2025, take a look. You can see that we were actually capped below this very, very key resistance level, and that would be the $320. Every time, don't ask me why, I don't know about. Every time it go down, Sorry, it goes up, it come back down. Down, down, down. Same thing. In September last year, we go up, come back down again, right? In December, we go up, come back down at least 5-6 times. Every time we go 320, always come back down, right? Come back down until like 290 or 280, then it rebound again, right? Not all the way down, right? You just go down a bit to a support and it starts to rebound, right? So I would say that from February last year to now, the trend is pretty much sideways, right? We were capped below the key $320 resistance level. Look at this, right? The red and the blue line is sideways. Red going sideways, blue line going sideways as well, both flat, which is correct because we are capped below the 320 mark, right? So it means that we are in a bit of a consolidation. However, over the past few days, right, after 1 year of sideways consolidation, it seems like we have broken above the $320 key resistance level. All right, not too bad. In fact, yesterday we were actually attempting to push higher when the market was weaker. Right, so I think this is a little bit more of a defensive kind of counter. I mean, compared to the technology stock, like whether AI or not AI, people still eat McDonald, right? So funds are slowly shifting a little bit into the consumer place, and I think McDonald is definitely one of those that is benefiting from it. All right, so good thing is that we have broken above the key 320 psychological resistance level. Not too bad. You want to put this stock in your watch list, right? The long-term trend, you can see the red and blue both starting to point up a little bit. The green line already pointed up since 2 weeks back already. All right, so a couple of confirmations that is looking definitely more bullish. Now, let's go ahead to turn on my 1GT Pro indicator to see if there are any bullish or bearish signals. Because maybe I've turned on after it's all bearish, then of course don't buy lah. But let's turn on to see if it supports the view that I just mentioned. Right, let's go ahead. 1, 2, 3, pump. There we go, right? So you can see we have a couple of bullish signal, and then it starts going up, and then a bearish signal, it come back down again, right? And that was what has happened over the past 1 year, right? It was consolidating, go up, come down, right? But let's zoom into over the past 2-3 weeks. So we got not one, but we got two 1GT bullish signal right over here. The first one came out on the 29th of January. The second one came out as we actually attempted to break the key $320 resistance that I just talked about just now. This red line right over here. So not too bad, right? Pretty bullish, two bullish signals, long-term trend starting to turn up, short-term trend already up since 3 weeks back. It is poised for even more upside, all the way to where? Well, let's find out what could be the near-term target. So you can see that it has been consolidating, as I say, from 280, 290, all the way to that $320 for 1 year. February last year to February this year. So it's 1 year, just nice. I also don't know why 1 year, right? But now, based on this, you could project it upwards. What potential targets could be maybe all the way to the $350 to $360. Does it make sense, about? Right, so that's how I can do a little bit of projection to see. Doesn't mean you will confirm go there, but that's just where when we project, because of the current or the consolidation phase that we've seen in the past year, right? We could hit that, and that's where some profit taking can come back again. So that's a kind of like a range to know, like, oh, if we do hit there, you want to take some profit lah, you want to sell some shares, lock in some partial profit. That's fine, because that's where some selling can return. Does it make sense, right? But of course, if we consolidate, we break the level, we might see a bullish signal coming out again. You could ride it even further. Okay, Ken? So this McDonald's, not too bad. I think looks pretty bullish. But I hope that helps, right? So good entry price could be anything above 320, right? Seems like that's where some good support have came out. Obviously, why? Because we have turned from a horizontal resistance to a new horizontal support. So 320 to 330 on dips, it could be a pretty good entry for the uptrend to continue to a higher fix. All right, so let me pass on the mic to Z to cover the last US stock for today. Z, all yours.
All right, thanks, Joey. Well, thanks for covering McDonald. I think you just reminded me that maybe I need to check McDonald for their curly fries and prosperity burger already. Because Chinese New Year, they will usually release it.
Oh, really? No, I didn't know. Yeah, I know got
Yeah.
this prosperity black pepper kind of
Yeah. I think it's only during Chinese New Year. But yeah, time for me to probably go and check it out over the weekends. But yeah, okay.
Okay.
Definitely, I think McDonald, the stock, right, also definitely looking good. I think I'll also put it into my watch list. Yeah. Okay, so let me just share my screen right over here. And I think the last stock, right, that I'll be sharing before we move on to our bonus section, right, for today will be Welltower. And I think Zen is actually asking about Welltower. And I think, hey, I decided to cover this Welltower because this is actually one of the stocks, right, that was actually covered as our bonus stock, I think, a couple of months back as well. So perhaps some of you guys who have been a regular here, perhaps you might want to have update about Welltower as well. So I think that would be good, especially Zen also have a question about Welltower, and you mentioned that you got in at 196 a few days ago and asking whether can you still hold. So perhaps it'll be a good time for us to actually revise about Welltower and to take note of some of the levels for Welltower that you guys can actually set some price alert on. All right. So okay. So for Welltower, right, I would think that Welltower, I don't really have to worry much about the longer term trend because for me it's pretty simple lah. You just look at the red and the blue line. The longer term trend definitely still very much intact, right? The short term trend, it was a bit worrying, right, at the end of 2025, December 2025, right, whereby we started to see a 1GD bearish signal coming out, and 20 days moving average started to point down, and then it stabilized a little bit. And recently, over the past, I think 1 or 2 weeks, we start to see that the 20 days moving average, right, started to point back up again, right, and aligning with the longer term trend. Plus, we get a 1GT bullish signal that is playing out, right? So, Zen mentioned that you got in at 196. Let's see, so you got in at 196. So that would be somewhere around here, right? 196. Not. Is it because you see the 1GT bullish signal? Not too sure. Is it you have the signals already? But wait, you got in like here, and then now you are sitting on probably about 6% profits, right? Yesterday price closed at about 208, and you're thinking whether can you continue to hold this stock? Very valid question, right? So let's take a look at some of the levels, right? So as you can see, because this stock was actually covered a couple of times back, right? And these are some of the support zones that was previously mentioned, right? As you can see, 180, and it has risen to 190, then 200, and then 210. It's always about like close to about a $10 range, I would say, right? So the immediate resistance, I would say that is pretty obvious, right? It's about 210. Why previously back here in November, December, this was where selling pressure came in, pushed price back all the way down, right? Profit taking actually happened, right? And over the past 2 days, we see that price actually approached that level again, right? During the trading day, somehow, it managed to break above this 210, but did it manage to close? Or did it manage to close by the end of the trading day, right? Above this 210? No, right? And we see that there is long upper shadow. So when we see long upper shadow, like I mentioned many times, right, it tells you that the selling pressure is there. We don't care whether the color is green or red, but as long as you see a long upper shadow, right, you know that the sellers are there ready to sell, right? Ready to sell. The bears are trying to take control, right? And when this actually happens near a resistance level, it's very normal because we always know that when it's at a resistance, right, it's normal for people to want to take profits, right? So I would say that if prices is at this level currently around testing the 210, if you would like to take some profits, especially you're already sitting on about 5 to 6% profits, right? You got it at 196 a few days ago. If you want to take partial profits, I would say nothing wrong with partial profits, right? And also because I don't know what's your position sizing. Maybe your position sizing quite big. You can consider to take half a position, 50% of your position, maybe 1/3 could also be fine, right? Because why? Longer term trend, I would say definitely still looking good, right? Short term trend has also started to align. But just because we are seeing some selling pressure returning here, nothing wrong for you to take profit as well if you would like to, right? To lock in some profits. Okay, so then support level, right? I mean, of course, now prices has started to move up and we see that the trend has started to turn up as well. You don't just have to think about selling. You can also think about maybe, I want to consider to increase my exposure, right? But where should I increase my exposure? That's the question, right? And also for those of you who perhaps might want to consider to have this in your portfolio as well, maybe you don't have any position, then you might think about, I want to add some position, but where? right? I mean, of course, number one, that would be here, right? This would be the support zone, right? Over here, around the $200 range, right? This would be the support, the immediate support, I would say, before price actually get up, right? Right over here. So if prices were to retrace back to this level, I think this is where you can actually set some price alert to actually accumulate on the dips if prices were to retrace back to the $200 psychological support. Otherwise, the next zone that we can potentially look at would be here, right? But this zone, right, I would say, because it is so-called like a breakout strategy, you are waiting for the price to break out above the 210, but not just break out, but break out and must be able to hold so that your 210, right, has firmly changed from a resistance to a support. Then this would be the zone that you can look at to actually increase your exposure as well. Nothing wrong, right? Both strategies are valid. One is more maybe perhaps for more conservative traders or investors who would prefer to wait for price to retrace back to a lower support, then you buy. But maybe for some other people who have a higher risk appetite, larger risk appetite, then you can potentially consider like a breakout strategy as well, right? And of course, if we do a breakout strategy, we also need to project and know where is our target, right? Because like we always mention, target price important as part of the trading plan. Project it up. The next upside target that potentially we could be looking at would be around 220. But of course, for this stock, I think what I would prefer or what I would like to see, right, is for it not to so fast break out above the 210. I would prefer for it to actually see it like this before it actually breaks out above, because then that would make this uptrend more sustainable. Because if it does just all the way go up like in this manner, right, it can also come down very fast, like what we mentioned, right? By right, bulls usually climb the stairs. It doesn't take the elevator, right? It doesn't take the elevator up, because if it takes the elevator up, maybe the bears, right, will come down even faster. Okay, so that's just something for you to note as well. And I hope then that gives you some of the levels to take note and to set some of the price alert for yourself to actually monitor. Okay, so that would be for Welltower. Yes, and I think we have come to the end of the 16 stocks, right? And I'll pass the time back over to Joey so that he can share with you guys what is his bonus stock for today.
All right, thank you so much, Z. So there we have it, guys, a total of 16 stocks today. We have done our best. I know there's more than 50, 40 over US stocks that you guys asked. So sorry that we cannot cover all of it. You know, it might drag on to like another 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 more hours. Right? So hopefully you can join us on next Friday weekly AMAS as well. And as I say, right, I mean, Z has mentioned as well, if you want to kind of like use the tool that we're using, it's a simpler tool. All right, we have actually what we call the One Good Trend Light indicator for free. All right, it's a simpler version of the pro version that we are using. All right, whereby you can turn on the bullish and bearish signals, right, in like 5 seconds. All right, and you can see for yourself whether is it a red color one or a green color one. You see a green one, then you feel a bit more confident. If you see a red one, then don't go and buy right? Be patient, right? Wait for it, right? Yeah, don't rush to get in, because I think we've talked about it, that you want to be, you want to know when to buy and also sometimes when not to buy as well, because you knowing when not to buy can save you a ton of money, right? Because you are not just getting in on any other random stock, but you are saying this one no, this one maybe, no, maybe, this one okay, maybe, no. So when you say okay, that one at least got some clear reason why you're buying lah. That makes sense, fun. All right. So the link's right in the chat. Check out our free trial of the One Good Trend Light indicator. All right. That's where it allows you to get a quick opinion on any stocks, any asset classes in seconds. So today we're looking at the US market, right? But it works for gold, right? For crypto, for Bitcoin, for Forex, for Singapore stock, DBS, all right? OCBC, whatever. Yes. Any stocks, any asset classes in seconds. Okay, now let's go ahead to the next segment of today's live show. All right, and that will be the bonus stock that I would like to share with you guys. Right, so thank you so much for joining us, and staying all the way to the end. All right, so basically, after covering your stocks, what we do is that every Friday we also share some of the bonus stock that we like that you could also watch. And the very first stock for today will be this company called Walmart, right? Walmart, and the code is WMT, right? WMT right over here. Why do we like Walmart? Well, as I say, right, the market has been pretty volatile, especially for the US market. over the past 1 to 2 months, right? Due to AI valuation concerns, a bit of selling, a little bit of geopolitical tensions with Donald Trump. All right. So it's been quite volatile, right? Sell down in some of the technology stocks like Palantir and some others we talk about, right? And quietly, there's a sector that is doing pretty well, all right? And that's the consumer staples sector. There's been attracting some funds, and that's where funds are rotating a little bit to the more defensive sector, a little bit out of the technology sector over the past 1 to 2 months, all right? And that's where stocks like Walmart can actually benefit, right? Or has already benefited from this, right? So this is Walmart. You see that in terms of the technical, the long-term trend is up. Red above the blue, both pointing up. So long-term trend is up. These are definitely stocks that we want to think about positioning, but not anyhow, right? Doesn't mean long-term trend up means you anyhow just go and buy. No, because there's just one confirmation, right? We have a total of 7 confirmations. So long-term trend up is just one of it, right? The short-term trend must be up as well. Right over here, you can see up, flat, up right over here, right? Up right over here as well, right? Short-term trend must be up. So if the long-term trend is up, the short-term trend is up, even better. And we want to break what we call a resistance level right over here. Can you see that over the past 1 over year, we were actually consolidating below the 110 psychological resistance, right? Somewhere in November, it was now watch this. We broke it, that became a new support level. All right. And that's where we started to see more strength, because when that happened, you can see that the long-term trend and the short-term trend is aligned. Of course, it's pushed a little bit higher. So I thought, why not to cover it before it moved even higher? Because it seems like yesterday, we are attempting to go even higher by breaking above the 132 to 130 resistance level. It closed at 133. So not too bad, right? It seems like we're attempting to push higher, even though the rest of the market is falling or selling down, right? This stock is seeing strength. Now let's go to turn on the bullish and bearish signals from my 1GT Pro indicator. As I say, you could test drive the 1GT Lite indicator. Is a simpler version. Ours got more advanced features, a Pro, right? But you can test drive the Lite version, whereby you don't have some of the more advanced stuff like the trailing support and resistance, or the horizontal, or the volume and the risk management stuff, right? That one would be for the Pro version. But you could test drive the Lite version, which is where you could turn on the bullish and bearish signals right over here, the first box, and the 3 boxes which I've already turned on. Right? So that's the Lite version. Test it out. Link is right in the chat. So I've turned it on. You can see that, well, not just bullish green signals all the way. Sometimes we have bearish, right? Bearish, bearish, bearish. It starts coming down, right? But every time it comes back down, we got bullish and it starts to rebound. Let's move on to the most recent bullish signal right over here on the 20th of November. Same thing. We got a bullish signal, broke it, short-term trended up, and there we go. So it's been bullish since November, December, I would say, but it is still looking even more bullish. So what we could do right now is that I think a potential good entry could be anything above this trailing support. So let's turn it on, the trailing support, to see where it is, right? So the trailing support is over here at about $122, right? But I think not even 122, right? Maybe a bit higher. Some support would have already appeared, and that would be around the $126 right over here. So over the past 1, 2 weeks, you see, right? Some bargain hunting is happening above 126. So 126, 127, 128, all the way to 130. I think that's where some bargain hunting is starting to come back, right? And that's where, as long as you stay above these levels and even above the trailing support, we are poised to see more upside, maybe all the way to 140, 150. That could be the next upside target. All right, so that's the first bonus stock I share with you guys. Walmart, the code is WMT. So let me pass on the mic to Z to share his US bonus stock for today. Z?
All right, thanks, Joey. Okay, so let me just share my screen over here. And today, the bonus stock that I would like to share with you guys, right, would be none other than Johnson & Johnson. And if you guys have been joining us for the past few sessions, and even I think 2 weeks back, which is our US Ask Me Any Stock, right, you have known that Johnson & Johnson is also the same stock that I'll be covering today. But the thing is that sometimes even when we cover the same stock, right, there's a reason one, because it's still good, right? The stock is still good. So it's okay to actually cover the stock and to give you guys an update of, where are the support, where are the resistance, and potentially what are some of the levels that you can actually take note of, right? And if, like, for those of you who have probably already gotten in on on Johnson & Johnson, right? Then perhaps where are some of the levels that maybe you might want to consider to take some profits, or maybe to consider to increase exposure as well, since it's still not too bad, right? So for Johnson & Johnson, definitely, I think this stock, right, it will definitely still be in our watch list now, because all three moving averages are heading up, right? And also, like what Joey mentioned earlier on, in terms of like sector rotation, right? You can see that, yeah, funds are actually moving out of the tech sector and going into the more defensive sector. So the one that Joey covered just now will be in the consumer staple sector, right? But Johnson & Johnson, I would say it will still be in the defensive defensive sectors, but this would be different, right? Walmart is more on consumer staple, this would be more on healthcare, but definitely still more defensive than stock than tech stocks, okay? So when we take a look at Johnson & Johnson, right, you can see that on my screen, I've multiple lines that are drawn, whereby the whole purpose is to show you that all these lines, right, previously at some point in time, it is actually a resistance one, but prices have consistently broke it, turning it to become higher support level, right? And those are good signs. When resistance are broken to become support, right, new higher support, that means that buyers are there willing to buy up at higher prices, and prices are continuing pushing up, right? With us knowing that the trend is actually still looking good, long term, short term is still up, and we got 1, 2, 3, 4 consecutive 1GT bullish signal, right, that are actually still playing out, right? So as you can see over here, right, the prices as of last night closed at 244, right? I think 244.55, 244.55, and you can see that I've drawn this red box over here, right? And typically, sometimes when I draw this red box and green box, right, it is in relation to the support and the resistance, and those are the buy zones and sell zones that potentially we could be looking at, right? Because this 245, I think this is one of the resistance that was actually drawn previously, right? And prices are actually approaching that 245 resistance, which is right at the sell zone, right? Which is right at the sell zone. So for those of you who have gotten in, right, I think this stock was actually covered previously as well. I think 2 weeks back was 30th of January. It was here, right? It broke up above, went up even higher, and now is approaching another resistance zone. So if you have gotten in and you would like to take some profits, I would say that it is okay to actually take profits near this 245, right? Near this 245, because this would have been, let's see, from the breakout, it is about a 6% increase. But of course, for those of you who maybe are holding on to this stock, right, since the first 1GT bullish signal come out, you are sitting on close to 60% profits. So better take some action to protect your profits, okay, along the way, right? Along the way with trading support. But back to this, right? So I was talking about the resistance, right? So what about support level, especially for those of you who think that, hey, wow, price actually go up so high already, but then you want to have a piece of the action, right? But we don't want to rush. We never want to rush, because once you start rushing and you FOMO and you just buy the stock without thinking, without having a plan, that's when you might get very emotional, and we don't want to have a plan. We don't want to not have a plan when entering a position. Okay, so right now price is testing the 245, right? We want to take note of where's the support level is at. So as you can see, the support level previously I've drawn is somewhere around this 230, right? So this definitely would be one of the support zone that you can set price alert, right, to notify you if prices were to retrace back down to the support. This is potentially where you can consider to actually accumulate on dips, right? And you can see that this is also pretty close to the 20 days moving average, right? So this would be definitely one of the support zone. And the other support zone, perhaps some of you maybe would have already guessed it, right, would be right over here, the 245 to perhaps maybe around 250. That is only if the price hold firmly above this 245, right? And that would be a new higher support zone that's being found, right? And perhaps some of you guys might be wondering and maybe a bit curious, like, hey, how do you actually know all these levels? How do you actually do a projection? Very simple, right? Because if you see the past price action back in December, you can see that price actually kind of consolidated sideways for a bit, right? At least for a while, right? From November all the way to the start of January. And you can see that this is the range that it was kind of trading at, right? And you just consistently project it up, right? You can see that these are some of the levels that we are taking note of, right? Because that is a projection, right? It's a projection as to potentially where can the price head towards, right? So the next price target, if prices is able to break and hold above the 45, could be towards the 260 level right over here. So that could be the next higher targets that we are looking at. All right. So I mean, for Johnson & Johnson now, definitely, it's still looking great, right? It's still looking great, pretty bullish, and there's no right or wrong in terms of your potential zone of entry, because some people, like I've mentioned earlier on, they have larger risk appetite, right? So perhaps a breakout strategy will be more suitable for them. But otherwise, nothing wrong with waiting for price to actually retrace back. But then the key thing is never to rush, right? Never to rush into buying any stock. Okay. And most importantly, apart from now you have your target, you have your entry price, your target price, right? Think about your stop loss as well, right? Have your stop loss plan in place to manage your downside in case prices were to suddenly reverse due to any like bad news or company related news. Okay, so that would be, I think that would be Johnson & Johnson. I think definitely is still looking great. Potentially, I think watch out for a breakout above the 245. But of course, I think what I would hope to see again would, of course, be something like that, right? Before it actually breaks out, like a sideways consolidation first before it breaks up even higher, so that the uptrend can be even more sustainable. Okay, so that would be Johnson & Johnson. And that would be my bonus stock that I would like to share with you guys. If you guys like it, you can also add it into your watch list as well. Okay, so with that, back over to you, Joey.
All right, thank you so much, Z. So there we have it, guys. These are the two bonus US stock for today. Walmart, right, by me and Z just covered Johnson & Johnson. The code is J and J. All right, so that's it. Thank you so much for joining us in today's AMAS, right, US session. And, as I say, right, for the US market, I mean, we did cover a couple of stocks, right, some bullish, some bearish as well, all right. And, it's been a little bit different from the Singapore market, So if you want more bullish types of stocks, right, like Walmart, like J&J, and even some of those stocks that you guys asked, perhaps you could also think about focusing on the Singapore market. So next Friday we'll be going live, and that's where we'll be back to the Singapore AMAS session. But not only that, if you want to get some of the Singapore ideas daily, right, by WhatsApp for free, as I say, if you're not yet a client of mine in Phillip Securities, check out the link is right in the chat. Find out how you can become a client of mine in Phillip Securities, where I'm a broker, all right, and you can get some of those ideas on the Singapore market, right, daily by WhatsApp for free at no additional cost. Especially, as I say, if you are trading online, all right, you have a trading account, but it seems like your broker don't really do anything or send you any ideas or video, nothing, right? A hotline, you need to call and wait 5-10 minutes, that kind of thing, right? Find out how, join many of our clients over here, all right, to get some of those ideas much faster than the time that it takes to do a live, show like this, whereby the price might have gone up a little bit already. Right, so link is right in the chat. Right, Z, anything to add, Z?
No, I think I just want to wish everybody a happy Chinese New Year, because I think next week is Chinese New Year already, right? So just want to remind everybody, if you guys are actually, doing some gambling during Chinese New Year, make sure to have a trading plan also, okay? Have stop loss, If let's say, lose too much, don't continue gambling, okay? Because, so that is the only thing that I wanted to wish everybody. Happy Chinese New Year, and hope everybody will what for this year.
Yes, thank you so much, Z. All right, yes, indeed. So next week is Chinese New Year. So wishing every one of you who have been joining us every week, our clients over here, or even those of you who have been scrolling through and just joining us, right? A happy, blessed Chinese New Year. All right, 祝你恭喜发财，身体健康，万事如意，心想事成. That's all I know. All right. All right, so that's it, right? So thank you so much for joining us. All right, we'll see you next Friday in our AMAS session again. All right, and we look forward to hear from you guys again and participating, typing in the chat. Thank you so much. We appreciate you joining us today. So bye everyone.
Bye bye.
Take care. Bye bye. Have a good happy New Year. Bye bye.